Renxue, I open a tavern and get Zhu Zhuqing drunk. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyright or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 251 Alien. The next day, Qian came out with dark circles under her eyes, like a national treasure giant panda, especially because her skin was too white. Even if there were dark circles, even if they were very light, the contrast was still strong. She looked at Liu Chang'an dimly, her face full of resentment. Now, she was completely sure that Liu Chang'an, a straight man, really didn't treat her any special way. This so-called nightmare was really torture. My lord, you, Qian looked at Qian worriedly. Qian shook her head slightly and said stubbornly, I suddenly realized something during my practice yesterday, and I didn't pay attention, and a night passed. Qian looked embarrassed and wanted to ask Qian, even so, how could you have dark circles under your physical fitness at the level of a god king? However, when he thought of Qian taking several actions for the plan at the risk of worsening her injuries, he was afraid that she was on the verge of collapse now. My lord has sacrificed too much for the development of soul beasts, Qian sighed secretly, looking at Qian's figure. His eyes were more respectful. Boss, I want to challenge the earthly wine. Suddenly, a voice sounded, attracting everyone's attention. The one who spoke was Zhu Zhuqing. He was obviously in his prime, but now Zhu Zhuqing seemed to be dozens of years older, with grey hair and cloudy eyes. He didn't have the feeling of a playboy at all. He came to Liu Chang'an and proposed to challenge the earthly wine. Most people didn't recognize him. Seeing Zhu Zhuqing wanted to challenge the earthly wine, the high-level people at the spirit hall looked at Bibi Dong. After Bibi Dong and Qian Renxue's relationship eased, she specially convened a high-level meeting to announce that Qian Renxue was the daughter of the Pope and what mission she was doing now. So ordinary elders such as Douluo also knew the inside story. Now that there is war in the Qian Dou Empire, Zhu Zhuqing suddenly wants to challenge the earthly wine, and they are also very malicious. Should we find a chance to get rid of him? Cut the grass and root it out? Douluo asked sinisterly. Bibi Dong shook her head slightly and said righteously, there is no need for this. The change of ownership of Qian Dou is the tacit consent of Chang'an. Who dares to question us? If others find out, this is a good opportunity to show it to the world. Everyone in the spirit hall sighed secretly. His Holiness the Pope is no longer willing to kill people. He is no longer simple and rough, but has become thick-skinned. At this time, Zhu Zhuqing finished the challenge of the worldly wine. The whole process was very plain, taking the wine, drinking, standing still for 10 seconds, and the challenge was successful. He succeeded too smoothly. Many people looked at him with curiosity and desire. Did Zhu Zhuqing master some magic weapon to win? After Zhu Zhuqing succeeded in that challenge, there was no special reward anomaly, which made everyone more curious. Someone couldn't help asking, Zhu Zhuqing, did you succeed? Then you should be able to choose fine wine. By the way, what is your wish? Can you reveal it? Zhu Zhuqing did not respond, returned to the position where he came from, and continued to sit listlessly. The next second, Liu Chang'an waved his hand, and another light screen was projected in the tavern. This time, it was a battlefield. On the battlefield, one side was the army of the Qian Dou Empire, and the other side was the aliens with human bodies and snake tails. Although they were few in number, their strength was far superior to that of the Qian Dou army. The leader of the snake army was a rough man with a sky-high braid on his head and shaved hair around. Die. A bunch of trash. How dare you be the ice peak of the snake tribe? All the good things belong to our snake tribe. The snake leader roared wildly. And his roar did work, and the army of the Qian Dou Empire soon fell into a disadvantage. In particular, more than a dozen rays of light flew out of the hands of the snake leader, which were spikes surrounded by flames. They were powerful weapons. If they entered the army, they would kill hundreds of people in one round. In this way, the army of the Qian Dou Empire quickly collapsed and fled. The leader of the snake people laughed loudly. With this level of ability, you dare to encircle and suppress our snake tribe? You really don't know how to live or die. How can a bunch of trash be worthy of occupying such a large land? The scene changed, and the leader of the snake people came to a cage. Inside the cage, an old man sat cross-legged, and the shadow of the iron pillar at the cage fell on his face. He had a calm expression and didn't care about his own situation at all. This man is the pillar of the Qian Dou Empire, Marshal Jilan. Unfortunately, in the war not long ago, He didn't win many battles, and he was directly abducted by Queen Medusa when he returned. I heard that you are the best commander in the Qian Dou Empire. Let me ask you, knowing the strength of our Snape tribe, do you still want to go against us? The leader of the Snape people looked at Jilin mockingly. Zhilong sneered and said, I am mighty and I cannot yield. Even if I am killed by you, what does it matter? You are trying to occupy the land of the empire. You have wolfish ambitions. Everyone in the empire can kill you. The leader of the Snape people was angry and said angrily, asshole. You are looking for death. The leader of the Snape people passed through the cage and grabbed Zhilong's collar. He looked at him fiercely and said coldly, if you don't want to be my dinner, you'd better say something nice. Zhilong was free and easy. He laughed and said, it's up to you. A defeated general deserves to die. ... The leader of the Snape people felt numb. This old guy is too determined. He originally interrogated this old guy with the idea of coercion and inducement to make him a dog of the Snape tribe, and many people were willing to obey. But this old guy not only did not yield, but also maintained an attitude of seeking death. This is very annoying. You old bastard. Do you still think your Qian Dou Empire has a future? Let me tell you. In the future, the Qian Dou Empire will be in the hands of our Snape tribe. You'll surrender sooner or later. Now, the Snape leader was still threatening. But Zhilong suddenly laughed. The Snape leader looked unkind and asked coldly, what do you mean? Are you laughing at your own death? Zhilong snorted coldly, staring at the Snape leader with turbid eyes. Do you think the Qian Dou Empire is over? Wrong. It is you, the Snape people, who will soon face a disaster. Not to mention that the Wooden Hall and the fierce beasts in our world have not yet taken action. The tavern owner who is in charge will definitely wipe you out when he sees how cruel you are. I die. Then come on, anyway, you'll soon repeat the same mistakes. Zhilong laughed and pointed at the Snape leader's nose and mocked. The leader of the Snape people was furious and shouted, you bastard. The Spirit Hall and the fierce beasts are all weaklings in front of our Snape people. The people in your world are weaklings. And the tavern owner. That's ridiculous, that guy must be a... The leader of the Snape people didn't finish his words. Shut up. Yanxi. Don't talk about the boss. If you don't want to die. Yume came over and warned the leader of the Snape people coldly. Chapter 252 Dissatisfied Yume. What do you mean? A mere tavern owner actually scares you so much? Do you still have the pride of the Snape people? Or has your courage been lost in this world? Yanxi asked with a sneer. Pa. Yume slapped him hard. Yanxi was furious, covering his swollen cheek, with black fighting spirit coming out of his body, and said angrily, Yume. Do you really think that I dare not kill you? Don't think that the queen, Pa. Another slap was slapped on Yanxi's face. Yume sneered again and again, and said, then you try. Let's see who will win. But, no matter what the result, you'll definitely be killed by the queen. Because of your contempt for the boss. What bullshit. Yanxi did not say it, because Yume also burst out with amazing murderous aura. Yanxi had no doubt that if he showed any disrespect to the so-called tavern owner in his words again, he would definitely be slapped again. After his emotions slowed down, Yanxi suddenly remembered that when he came to this world, the queen gave them the first and most important instruction, never to disrespect the tavern and the owner. He was so inflated by the great victory during this period that he forgot the queen's warning. Taking a deep breath, Yanxi said coldly, what kind of existence is that so-called tavern owner? I know that we can come to this world thanks to the owner, but the queen is already a Dou's own, how can she still be afraid of him? Yanxi looked at Yume questioningly. Yume sneered and said, then I will tell you clearly now, let alone Dou's own, even the legendary Dou Dai is definitely not as good as the boss. So, no matter what time it is, you must respect the boss. If you are stubborn now, the queen will definitely use you as an example. After hearing Yume's words, Yanxi's face became more solemn. Is the situation really so important? For a tavern owner, even he, the Douang of the Snape people, can be executed. But, is there really such a powerful existence in the world as described by Yume? Yanxi didn't want to believe it. He was more inclined to think that it was just that the queen was misled, or to be more disrespectful, the queen was a woman after all, and her courage was not as good as his. I want to see the queen. Yanxi left angrily. After Queen Medusa obtained the fiefdom, she named it the Snape tribe and found reasons to kill all the nobles who were guilty. She also drove away the nobles who were not clearly guilty. In this way, the Snape tribe became the only noble class in the fiefdom. They were arrogant and did not listen to orders from the Qian Dou Empire. It was precisely because of this that Marshal Zhilong discovered their ambitions and rashly led the army to attack, so that they were defeated and captured. After Qian Renxue learned about this matter back to the Qian Dou Empire, she came to visit in person. She didn't even bring any strong men to protect her. She went to the meeting alone and met with Queen Medusa. You are worthy at being the #1 character in the world. Even though we are both women, I can't help but fall for the Queen's charm. Qian Renxue smiled and complimented. Now she has almost made it clear that she is a woman and is usurping the country. Kailin narrowed her eyes, stared at Qian Renxue, and said bluntly, "Don't be polite, I like to be direct." Okay. Now there is a tavern, and the boss doesn't like to use knives and guns. So, we can't fight. The Queen should be clear about this, right? Qian Renxue smiled. Kailin hummed. After seeing the power of Liu Chang'an, everyone had to put away their ambitions and carefully put away their claws according to Liu Chang'an's preferences. Otherwise, they would definitely get hurt. My proposal is that Qian Dou and the Snape tribe will never invade each other. And as the frontier of the empire, the Snape tribe must not cooperate with Xingluo to counterattack Qian Dou, or sell any form of intelligence. How about it? Qian Renxue asked with a smile. Kailin snorted coldly and said, "What a joke. Your Qian Dou army invaded the Snape tribe first. Just let it go. Do you really think that my Snape tribe is easy to bully?" Qian Renxue curled her lips and said playfully, "Then as compensation, please kill them, Queen." Kailin narrowed her eyes and stared at Qian Renxue coldly. Killing Zhilong. What good will it do to the Snape tribe? It is completely unnecessary and may lay a landmine. And what about Qian Renxue in front of her? Zhilong is also unimportant. Qian Renxue is a usurper. Conservatives in the empire like Zhilong must be more loyal to Emperor Zhu. Qian Renxue can't wait for him to die. Killing or not killing is not a good thing for the Snape tribe. Killing will help Qian Renxue. Angry. Kailin snorted coldly and said, "Aren't you afraid that I will tell Zhilong and the nobles in your empire that you, the emperor, are a fake?" Qian Renxue shook her head slightly and said confidently, "No, I'm not afraid. My usurpation of the throne was tacitly approved by the boss. Who dares to say no? Even if you want to overthrow me, how can you do it without using force? If you use force and cause killing, the boss will not like it. Queen, what do you think?" Qian Renxue asked with a slight smile. Kailin snorted coldly and said, "Enough. Take Zhilong away. Just as you said, from now on, the two countries will not invade each other. Happy cooperation." Qian Renxue smiled and left the room. Not long after she left, Yanxi and Yume came in together. As soon as Yanxi stepped into the door, he couldn't wait to ask, "Queen, why did you let the old man go? And the boss, we are not nearby and will not interfere with him, why are you so cautious?" Kailin glared at him coldly, "Shut up. If you don't want to die." The murderous aura enveloped Yanxi's eye like smoke, and Yanxi's expression froze. After a few seconds of silence, he left the room in fear. After Yanxi left the room, before he returned to the tribe, the Queen's guard Wuxie caught up with him. "Commander Yanxi, please wait a moment." Wuxie chased up and shouted loudly. Yanxi stopped, looked at Wuxie and asked, "What did you ask me to do?" Wuxie blushed slightly, a little embarrassed, and said, "It's like this, Commander Yanxi, the Queen said that you should go back and reflect first, and your tribe will be led by me first." Exclamation mark, exclamation mark, exclamation mark. Yanxi was stunned. He couldn't believe that he was abandoned by the Queen just because he questioned the tavern. Going back to react, returning to the desert, isn't that exile? Just because of a tavern owner thousands of miles away. How important his contribution to the Serpent tribe was over the years, and he was just abandoned so easily. Yanxi left angrily with a sullen face. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novel, as there you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 253, 10,000 Years. Yanxi underestimated the punishment the Queen would give him. She asked him to go back and reflect, not in this world, but to return to Douluo Continent. It was crazy. Now almost all the members of the Snape tribe have come to this world. Only a small number of them stubbornly stayed in Douluo Continent. Let him return to the barren place. At this moment, Yansui turned evil. When he stepped into the bronze door, his face was gloomy, and a bold idea came to his mind. It was all because of the tavern that he fell into this situation. He must take revenge on the tavern. How to take revenge? It's very simple. Isn't it enough to bring in the strong men from Douluo Continent? As long as the so-called tavern owner is defeated, the queen will realize what a stupid mistake she has made. That's it. It seems that I have to go to Zhongzhou to lie down, Yansui sneered again and again. And everything that happened in the Snape tribe fell into the eyes of everyone in the tavern. They each held their own opinions and expressed their views. Those who were not of our race must have different hearts. The number of Snape people is small now, so their ambitions have not expanded. When they reproduce and thrive, they will definitely compete with us for resources. That's right. Now think about it, Zhu Yi, the tyrant, is so lustful that he actually gave the Snape people a fiefdom, allowing them to occupy the moral justice. I thought Queen Medusa was beautiful before and wanted to be her liquor, but now I just want to kill the Snape people with my own hands. A group of people were talking and spitting saliva. In fact, they were all tacitly avoiding a problem, that is, Zhu Zhuqing's true identity was not from the Qian Dou royal family, but an undercover from another force. Usurping the country. But Qian Renxue's fearless words in the picture, they also understood that this matter must be related to the tavern owner. Then, no one dared to comment randomly. If this offends the boss, they can't afford it. Zhu Ben looked at the scene in front of him with a smile. Sure enough, he was right. Even if the truth came out, the hope of Qian Dou's restoration would be infinitely close to zero. With the boss above, who dares to stand up and sing a different tune? You come out to restore the Qian Dou Empire, do you want to go against the boss? No one can bear this big hat. Seeing this, everyone in the Spirit Hall showed complacency on their faces. In this situation, the Spirit Hall is definitely the most powerful force. Bibi Dong stood up and said, I believe you have guessed that Zhu Zhuqing is now from our Spirit Hall. Qian Renxue is also that future angel god. Back then, but the Spirit Hall has reformed, and I promise everyone that the Spirit Hall will never have any connection with the Empire. And the Qian Dou Empire will strictly abide by the boss's philosophy, rule the country with benevolence and righteousness, and the Empire will be guilty of the same crime as the common people. At the time, the state affairs will be handled in the form of shared monarchy among the sects. Bibi Dong said loudly. Nine Feng's face changed when he heard this, and he couldn't help asking, Your Majesty, what does this shared monarchy mean? It means that the Heaven Dou Empire will not have an empire in the future, and our Soul Master Alliance will jointly decide national affairs. And there is only one policy, the withdrawal of the proposition must speak for the people. Bibi Dong smiled. Exclamation mark, exclamation mark, exclamation mark. Nine Feng's breathing was rapid. The faces of other sects also changed. The Soul Master Alliance was only responsible for the decisions of the Soul Master world before, but the total number of Soul Masters was only hundreds of thousands. How could it compare to an empire? Now that the power of the empire is handed over to the Soul Master Alliance, it means that every force can get involved. How could such a proposition not be supported? At this moment, all the Soul Masters looked at the people in the Spirit Hall with different eyes. They were also willing to believe what Bibi Dong said, otherwise, with the boss's tiger skin, they would not dare to have any objections to the Spirit Hall taking charge of the Heaven Dou Empire. Long live the Spirit Hall. The Empire belongs to our Spirit Masters and civilians. I feel excited just thinking about it. From now on, the Qian Dou Empire will definitely prosper. I didn't expect the Spirit Hall to be so courageous. The civilian Spirit Masters of the Qian Dou Empire will be blessed in the future. Looking at their happy expressions, Zhu Ben sighed sadly. There was no way. Even if Liu Chang'an didn't protect the Spirit Hall now, Qian Dou would not be able to restore the country. However, he didn't mind it now. Anyway, it was his father who lost the empire, not him. The one who couldn't raise his head should be Emperor Zhu Yi. Zhu Ben thought about it in a miserable way, while looking at the light curtain above the tavern. Now there was a desert in another world above. The leader of the Snape people named Yansui walked out of the desert. That woman is really good at buying people's hearts. Zhu Zhuqing snorted coldly and looked at Bibi Dong indignantly. That's right. She usurped someone else's country and even had the nerve to share the spoils. Princess Dai Shishi of the Xingluo Empire echoed. They were all nobles of the Xingluo Empire, and naturally they were dissatisfied with the methods of the Spirit Hall. Liu Chang'an looked at Bibi Dong's performance and nodded slightly. He was happy to see it happen. If there was no twists and turns, the continent would still be ruled by the feudal empire and the aristocracy in the next 10,000 years, without any progress. Now that the Spirit Hall has intervened, it may promote the development of the times. At this moment, a message suddenly came. Boss, I'm Michael, I'm in the Sunday and Moon Continent. When the Emperor Tian's Outongming Mirror of the God Realm appeared, he was threatened by the city of the Sunday and Moon Continent. Liu Chang'an became interested and asked Michael to go there to observe whether anyone challenged the mortal wine. Liu Chang'an waved his hand, and a second light curtain appeared in the tavern, but it was Michael on it. Michael was floating above a prosperous city. The buildings in this city are not much different from those of the Douluo Continent today, except that there are many more soul guide tools, but from the outside, there is not much difference. Everyone's attention was attracted. Daitian murmured, "Is this the Sun-Moon Continent? Strange, I didn't find it back then." Giuena yawned. She would fall into a nightmare as soon as she closed her eyes. In the tavern, she was suppressed to the physique of an ordinary person. Now with dark circles under her eyes, she looked even more pitiful. She would wake up soon after closing her eyes. Damn Liu Chang'an, should I give it a try and challenge him? Giuena looked at the light curtain, her heart was eager to move. At this time, in the light curtain, Michael descended over the capital of the Sun-Moon Continent, emitting a soft and sacred holy light, attracting everyone's attention, and then began to announce the existence of the tavern. A moment later, the Emperor of the Sun-Moon Continent, Zhu Zhuqing, stood on the high platform and shouted to Michael, "God! Our Sun-Moon Empire needs time. We hope to speed up the flow of time. Let us develop rapidly. Please help me. I am willing to challenge the worldly wine myself." Chapter 254. Across the ocean, the Emperor and subjects of the Sun-Moon Empire all looked up, looking at Michael in the sky with piety and solemnity. Michael looked calm and high above. He asked for instructions from the tavern far away on the other side of the ocean, and soon he got a reply. The first challenge, 3 gold soul coins, you only have 1 day. Once it's over, you can only cross the ocean and look for a tavern in the direction of Douluo Continent, in the east forest of Xingdou, Michael said loudly. His voice was spread by divine power and rang in the ears of every human below. The ability he showed convinced everyone. Zhu Zhuqing, the Emperor of the Sun-Moon Empire, immediately gave orders, and a moment later, more than 2,000 people wanted to challenge the worldly wine. The square in front of the entire imperial capital was full of people who wanted to challenge the worldly wine. The first batch. Zhu Zhuqing commanded on the stage. The next second, a burst of golden light passed by, and 3 bowls of worldly wine appeared in front of everyone present. They drank without hesitation. In less than 10 seconds, everyone was drunk. Seeing this scene, Zhu Zhuqing's face was grim. He waved his hand and said, "Take it away. Take it away." Change the next group of people. Soon, another group of people came to the square, also more than 2,000 people. Zhu Zhuqing shouted, "Those who succeed will be awarded the title of Marquis. Live with the country." His voice inspired the people who wanted to challenge in the square. Another burst of golden light was splashed. The same scene appeared. More than 2,000 people drank the earthly wine in unison, and then got drunk one after another. Zhu Zhuqing's face became even uglier. "What's going on? Is the earthly wine so difficult?" 5,000 people, not a single one succeeded in that challenge. Zhu Zhuqing raised his head and asked humbly, "God, why didn't these people succeed in challenging the earthly wine?" Michael said calmly, "The earthly wine challenge depends on the heart, the degree of desire for the wish, and how much determination can be made. If even the wish is not from the heart, even if 1 million people challenge, there is no possibility of success." Exclamation mark, exclamation mark, exclamation mark. Zhu Zhuqing was stunned. In the tavern, everyone who saw this scene showed a proud look on their faces. How could a group of barbarians understand the rules of earthly wine? They completely forgot that they were the same in the past, but because of the passage of time, the tavern became world famous, and the rules of earthly wine became known to the world. However, this barbarian emperor was able to mobilize so many people in a short period of time, in an orderly manner, which must be extraordinary. Prince Diao of the Xingluo Empire commented, "Yes, and I can see that the barbarian emperor's eyes are full of ambition. If he really leads us by 10,000 years, I'm afraid, a war is inevitable." Zhu Ben also sighed that he is now a Buddhist, washed away from the world, and more like a wise old man. When everyone heard this, they all looked surprised and suspicious. No way, with the tavern here, how dare they start a war? The boss just doesn't like war and killing lives, but that doesn't mean he will take action to quell it. Now think about it, 10,000 years. How strong must that empire, which is not worse than ours, be? Wait, don't look at the Sun Moon Empire first, that's very difficult, I don't believe they can succeed. Look at that Snape man, many people move their eyes to another light curtain. Now, the flame thorns of the Snape people have left the desert and come to a human city. It is a vast and prosperous city. Although it is not as technologically advanced as the Douluo world, the temperament exuded by the people inside does not look easy to mess with. In the Sun Moon Imperial capital, dozens of waves of people have been challenged, but all failed, no one succeeded, and time has come to dusk. Zhu Zhuqing simply released the number of challenges and called on all the people in the capital to challenge, and the funds were provided by the palace. Wishes are not mandatory. As long as they benefit their own strength and the Sun Moon Empire, they will get corresponding rewards. However, there are still few successful people. Moreover, the wish of successfully challenging was totally inconsistent with Zhu Zhuqing's goal. It could only prove that the earthly wine was real, but it could not fulfill his wish. Zhu Zhuqing looked at the sky, becoming more and more impatient. He could not help but ask Michael in the sky, God, please guide us in the direction, how can we succeed in the challenge? Michael pondered for a moment and said, you can add some restrictions to reduce the difficulty of the challenge. For example, if you do not leave the Sun and Moon continent within 10,000 years, your challenge will have more hope. Thank you for your kindness. Zhu Zhuqing was overjoyed and immediately asked the smartest people in the empire to start making plans. Soon, there was another round of challenges. Time gradually came to more than 11 o'clock in the evening. More than 90% of the people in the Sun and Moon capital were drunk, and there was still no hope for the 10,000-year plan. Zhu Zhuqing's face was as black as the bottom of a pot. At this point, he still did not give up. I will come in person. God. The Sun Moon Empire is grateful for your kindness. After today, no matter whether we succeed or not, your statue will be erected in all our Sun Moon territories. Zhu Zhuqing bowed to Michael devoutly, stood up, and immediately drank the earthly wine. After 3 bowls of earthly wine, Zhu Zhuqing held onto the wall, his eyes were straight, but he stared at the square below. 1 second, 2 seconds, 3 seconds, 10 seconds. Zhu Zhuqing's hands and feet were weak, and 2 attendants supported him to prevent him from falling. His face showed ecstasy. He succeeded in that challenge. I won. I won 10,000 years for the Sun Moon Empire. Zhu Zhuqing laughed hysterically, and the people around him who were still awake shouted long live. The picture in the light curtain began to flash rapidly, and everyone couldn't see what was happening inside. Scenes flashed by. After a few minutes, the picture slowed down, and the Sun Moon Imperial capital had also undergone earth-shaking changes. There were large buildings that stretched as far as the eye could see. Most of them were over 5 stories high. Some of them were even more than 10 stories high. Between the buildings, white stone streets were dotted everywhere. Some of the main roads were even more than 30 meters wide. The various civilian soul guides hidden in the thousands of lights were even more dazzling. The architectural style of this city was completely different from the impression of the natives of Douluo Continent. They simply couldn't understand it. If the Sun and Moon Empire attacks, can we really withstand it? We're 10,000 years behind. What are you all panicking about? A bunch of worrywards. Maybe our national strength is not as good as theirs, but don't worry. We have more than one god here. Someone said confidently. The panic of the crowd was relieved. Yes, they have gods here, and they may not lose if they fight. Chapter 255. Soul Clan attacks Douluo Continent. In a soul palace, Qian Renxue the Snape people met a master. He met the other party by chance. He was on the way to find a master and was spotted by the soul palace. When he was easily suppressed, he hurriedly explained the situation and met the Tianzan of this soul palace. The man was tall, wearing a blood-red cloak, with an evil face, looking at Qian Renxue. Interesting, you mean another world? Zhu, he asked with a smile on his face. Qian Renxue knelt on the ground. He was already impressed by the strength of this man. He said humbly, "Yes, sir. It's our queen." She was summoned by the strong man in another world, and then, Qian Renxue described the situation of another world, especially emphasizing the richness of that world, and the overall strength is not strong. Listening to Qian Renxue's words, a strange color flashed in Zhu's eyes. No matter what the facts are, it is worth him to try. If it is true as the other party said, that place is not bad as a retreat for the Soul Palace. Is the queen of your snake people at the peak of Dou Huang? Zhu he asked cautiously. Yes, sir. Now I have merged with a strange fire, and it seems to have reached Dou Zone. Yan Sui nodded repeatedly. Zhu he hummed and pondered for a moment. Just promoted to Dou Zone, in the eyes of him, a strong man at the peak of Dou Zone, it can't cause any trouble. How strong is the strong man who brought you to the alien world? I haven't seen him. That strong man doesn't seem to have any ambitions and doesn't care about us at all. But our queen is too timid and scared to death. Yan Xi's words were full of resentment, and he was very dissatisfied with Kuai-Lin. Zhu he smiled and said, very good, I will go with you. If you didn't lie to me, I promise you that I will not hurt your snake people, or you can manage that world for us. Yan Xi's eyes lit up and he said loudly, how dare I lie to you? It is an honor for the snake people to serve you. Please follow me to the snake people tribe. The bronze door there is always open, but you have to accept the soul of a snake monster and disguise yourself as a snake person before you can pass. Yan Sui said flatteringly. Everything Yan Sui did was shown in the light curtain. Seeing him almost groveling, everyone laughed disdainfully. This guy is so funny. Seeing his big and strong appearance, I thought he was a tough guy, but he ended up like this when he met a strong man. Don't be too optimistic. The strong man brought by the snake man is probably not simple. Can our gods really deal with him? That one is just a mortal, right? How can he beat a god? ... Some people are not sure. Separated by a layer of light curtain, they can't see how strong Zhu he is. But they saw the scene where Yan Sui was easily suppressed by 2 soul hall messengers. You know, Yan Sui's strength is equivalent to that of a titled Luo. Although it is a title of level 923, it should not be underestimated. And the strong man who is far superior to Yan Sui is coming across the border, and they are a little flustered. If Liu Chang'an doesn't take action, even if there are gods in the world, they will be flustered. Chang'an, how strong is that guy? Bibi Dong came to Liu Chang'an, pulled his sleeve, and asked in a low voice. Liu Chang'an glanced at her. Today, Bibi Dong had her purple hair tied up with a hairband and placed on her right shoulder. She looked very homely. He said, she should be stronger than you. Question mark, question mark, question mark. Bibi Dong was stunned for a moment and looked at Liu Chang'an in surprise. She was a 100 level deity. Although she had only been a deity for a short time, she shouldn't be unable to beat a mortal, right? That alien was actually stronger than herself. Is this fair? Bibi Dong asked unwillingly. Chang'an, that person is the strongest, right? At least in the top 3, top 10. Liu Chang'an shook his head slightly and said, his strength is at the peak of the first Dou Zone. Above him, there is the Doshan, who has 9 realms. And above the Doshan is the transcendent Dou Dai. But this is too alarmist. I'm not as good as him. Bibi Dong couldn't accept it. After all, she was a deity and still had pride. She felt bad when she was suddenly evaluated as being unable to beat an unknown guy. Well, you just became a god. Although you were a first-level god, you don't have enough accumulation. If it is an elemental god during the period of the god's advent, it would be easy to kill him. Liu Chang'an added. Okay. Bibi Dong pouted, looking a little unconvinced, and turned her eyes to look at the light curtain. At this time, Yan Sui brought this strong man to Douluo Continent. But the bronze door trembled, and 2 figures appeared. Zhu he grabbed his lantern, and a phantom of a snake soul beast appeared, frowning and said, this method is too thrilling. If this snake soul beast is weaker, I'm afraid I will be trapped in the time and space tunnel. Zhu he stared at Yan Sui coldly. Yan Sui's expression changed, and he hurriedly said, my lord is blessed by God, and he can always turn danger into safety. Please look around, this is a brand new world, and the people here are very weak. The bronze door is surrounded by a hidden forest. There were only a dozen or so snakemen guarding around. Seeing Yan Sui and a stranger appear, Mo Baz, who was also the leader of the snakemen, looked at the 2 coldly. Yan Sui, you were clearly ordered by the queen to go back and reflect. Why did you come here? Mo Baz pointed his 2-handed sword at the person and asked sternly. Yan Sui sneered. Put away your broken sword, Mo Baz. If you anger the master, you'll die ugly. For the sake of our fellow tribes, I tell you that this master is not your match. Leave quickly. We are going to conquer this world. How shameless. Yan Sui, you didn't listen to the queen's orders, and you colluded with outsiders and abused the bronze door. Mo Baz was about to say something. Zhu suddenly looked at him coldly, and in an instant, 2 red lights shot out of his eyes. The red light shone on Mobaz's face. Mobaz immediately showed a look of pain, his eyes wept blood, he covered his eyes and howled. It hurts so much. The snakemen around him hesitated for a moment, but still rushed up. Go to hell. Zhu sneered, waved his hand, and swept out red energy, killing all the snakemen warriors. Qian was shocked. He was very familiar with Mobaz, a man of steel, but now he was screaming in pain, which showed how intense the pain he was enduring was. Sir, don't bother with him. Qian smiled awkwardly. Looking at the miserable dead snakeman warriors on the ground, Qian's eyes flashed with a strange color. I heard that your snakeman queen is famous. Let's go and see, Zhu smiled. Chapter 256. Pulling the tiger's skin. This guy actually has his eyes on Queen Medusa. How hateful. Isn't it just that he's a little stronger? How dare he? He has his own way to die. That's right. Queen Medusa is the most beautiful in the world. Is he worthy of her? Asshole. It's just that I'm not strong enough. If I were strong enough, I would have to crush that asshole to death. The tavern was in an uproar. Hearing that Zhu was actually interested in Queen Medusa, they all showed anger. Just like the fans of female stars, they instinctively hate when they hear that their idol is actually being obsessed with by a greasy man. Of course, it also has a lot to do with the fact that the man is not them. Bibi Dong smiled and looked at Liu Chang'an, raised her eyebrows and asked, Chang'an, is Queen Medusa a match for the guy? No, it's a world of difference. Liu Chang'an said frankly. Bibi Dong's pupils shrank, looking at Liu Chang'an in disbelief. You know, Queen Medusa's strength is exceeded that of the 99 level titled Douluo. She may not be able to beat a strong man who has just entered the godly level, but she is definitely at the same level of strength. And such a powerful Queen Medusa, in Liu Chang'an's description, turned out to be a world of difference. How powerful must that outsider be? Bibi Dong blinked, eased her emotions, and asked curiously, Chang'an, if Queen Medusa is defeated by the other party, and the other party wants to take her body, will you take action? Yes. Liu Chang'an said. Bibi Dong sighed secretly. Sure enough, the most beautiful woman still has privileges in Liu Chang'an. It's a pity that I didn't meet Liu Chang'an that year, otherwise I wouldn't have that nightmare, right? Thinking of this, Bibi Dong suddenly began to complain about herself. Liu Chang'an ignored Bibi Dong's inner drama. He said he would save Queen Medusa, but it had nothing to do with the other party's identity or appearance, absolutely not. Since he saw the evil, even if it was Ru who was to be defiled, he would help. Of course, if he didn't see it, he wouldn't care. If he had not followed Zhu Ben's wish and opened the light curtain, he would not have known Kai Ling's situation and would not have taken action. His ability is not used to peek at beautiful women. Here we go. Maybe Queen Medusa can beat that bastard. In the picture, Zhu found Queen Medusa. Looking at her stunning beauty, he laughed and said, not bad, not bad. In terms of beauty, you're indeed worthy at being the most beautiful woman. At the entrance of the hall, Kai Lin stared coldly at Zhu and Yan Xi. Yu Mei was beside her and asked coldly, Yan Xi. You bastard. You actually betrayed the queen. You are looking for death. Yan Xi looked even more ashamed when he heard this. He didn't look up and ignored her. Zhu smiled and said, he did a good job. Your little snake people can't swallow up this great land. When I conquer this world, I will let you snake people take over. Yan Xi echoed, yes, this is the best plan for us, shut up. Yu Mei interrupted coldly. At this time, Kai Lin was still staring at Zhu. She couldn't sense the other party's strength, but one thing was certain, the other party's strength was far above hers. At least he had reached Bozun. Don't stand there, let me see you, this snake beauty, Zhu smiled and stomped his feet. The ground suddenly burst out with blood-red energy, like a blood lake, instantly covering the yard and spreading outside the city. The air was filled with a pungent smell of blood, and the buildings stained by the blood-red energy made a sizzling sound, corroded. Kai Lin shot out a pinky to dispel the energy. But it was like a clay cow sinking into the sea, and it couldn't stir up any waves at all. Yu Mei, who was touched by the blood-red energy, had a pale face, suddenly leaned against the wall, softened, sweating all over, and looked at Zhu in disbelief. My power! Kai Lin instantly rushed towards Yu Mei, wanting to take her away. But just before she attacked, Zhu suddenly blocked her in front of her. Bang! The two of them faced each other. Zhu didn't move at all, while Kaling took several steps back, and her body became weaker and weaker. As soon as she spread her wings of fighting spirit behind her, they dissipated again. The difference in strength between the two sides was too great. Kaling fell to the ground, with a look of panic on her face. Zhu put away the blood-colored energy, and the whole world seemed to be much clearer. Kaling and Yoimei were still in a weak state, lying on the ground, their bodies lying on the ground, weak and lovable. I haven't tasted meat for more than 40 years. You were good. You actually made me feel impulsive. Very good. Zhu laughed. If you want to die, just come. Yoimei suddenly sneered. Yoimei looked fearless. Facing Zhu's covetousness, she showed her contempt without concealment. Zhu frowned. Little snake, are you playing with fire? Zhu stared at Yoimei. He could not see any fear in her eyes, only contempt. He showed such a strong strength, but he couldn't make the other party subdue him. You are the one who is playing with fire. I'm not afraid to tell you. The Queen and I are both the women of the Tavern owner Liu Chang'an. If you dare to touch us, you will be completely wiped out. Yoimei sneered repeatedly, with a proud look. Zhu raised his eyebrows. He did not forget that Qian Renxue told him that the snake people could come to this world because of that strong man. And breaking the void and coming to a new world, even a Doshan may not be able to do this. As a newcomer, Zhu was still very vigilant. Oh? Can that boss be stronger than me? I have never seen any powerful characters in this world. Zhu said with disdain. Then you can wait and try. The boss's strength has surpassed the Dou Emperor. Even the gods in this world can only work in the boss's tavern. Come on. Do you also want to taste the boss's woman? Then, you and your people will all be destroyed. Yoimei sneered repeatedly. A hint of hesitation flashed in Zhu's eyes. For a strong man like him, cultivation is more important than lust. Otherwise, how could Queen Medusa be safe and sound? What did she say? Zhu looked at Aensa. Aensa looked at Kaling and Yoimei, and said stiffly. It should be true, otherwise why would they protect the tavern owner like that? And sir, don't you still want the snake people to take charge of this world? Yes, 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 let's go, take me to the strongest force in this world, let's take a look. Zhu patted Aensa's shoulder, and the next moment, they all disappeared. Kaling and Yoimei sat in the yard for a long time. Yoimei breathed a sigh of relief and said, It seems that she is really gone, Queen, I just offended you, it doesn't matter. Kaling shook her head, and there was also fear in her eyes. Chapter 257 The Unlucky Russian Sect. There was silence in the tavern. Everyone's face remained unchanged, but their eyes were all glancing in the direction of Liu Chang'an. There was no way, Yumei's words were too explosive. The boss personally rated the most beautiful woman in the world, and a charming beauty, had actually had sex with the boss. How come they didn't know about such a hot thing? When they thought that even Queen Medusa became the boss's woman, they were so envious that their eyes were red. Of course, there would be no jealousy, and they dared not to be jealous. Zhu Zhuqing looked at Liu Chang'an with resentment. Could it be that Zhu Zhuqing together couldn't keep an eye on Liu Chang'an? How could he be stolen? Zhu Zhuqing looked calm and continued to do what a maid should do. Bibi Dong approached Liu Chang'an and pushed his arm. Did you really sleep with those two women? It doesn't look like it. Liu Chang'an rolled his eyes at her. Be honest, they are obviously pretending to be a tiger, can't you see it? Liu Chang'an really wanted to say something slanderous. She was slandering me. Although they admit before, Liu Chang'an and Queen Medusa didn't say a few words to each other, and they didn't even hold hands. How could you make up such a story as if it was natural? Seeing that they were trying to get away, Liu Chang'an didn't punish the two women for tarnishing his innocence. Chang'an, so you didn't do that with them? Zhu Zhuqing was happy again. Liu Chang'an stretched out his hand and flicked her head, saying, do your own thing and don't ask around. Bang! Zhu Zhuqing's head tilted back, she covered her forehead, tears welled up in her eyes, it hurt her so much. Zhu Zhuqing stomped her feet, but with a happy look on her face, she said nothing more, and happily went to do her maid's work. Everyone was relieved when they saw this. It seems that Queen Medusa is still pure and innocent. That's good, they can still regard Queen Medusa as a spiritual sustenance. Otherwise, their goddess turned into the bosses that, they couldn't stand it, and they would feel distressed. Everyone still remembers the commotion the boss made that night. Which goddess can withstand such torture? At this time, someone said, you should think about the business. That guy is coming with great force, how can we deal with him? If we can't even beat him, then our world will be in danger. Everyone's attention finally turned back to the business. Yes, the tavern owner will not take action easily unless that person provokes the tavern. The problem is that the person actually gave up the world's most beautiful woman who was within his reach because he was afraid of the tavern, which shows that he is a cautious person and will not provoke the tavern too much. In this way, the natives of Douluo Continent can only be relied on to deal with that person. I have a plan. We can lead the guy to the Sun Moon Continent. Let them fight each other, and when two tigers fight, one will be injured. Can't we just sit back and enjoy the benefits? You should stop being so smart. Do you really think he is stupid? He will do whatever you say. In my opinion, this man can fly, so the army will be useless. We can only let the strong kill him. In other words, we have to let our gods take action. We can only rely on the great worshippers of the Spirit Hall. Don't you see how strong that man is? Even Queen Medusa was killed in an instant. Can our gods do it? ... Everyone was flustered. Qian Renxue looked solemn. He asked himself that it was impossible. Even dealing with Queen Medusa was quite difficult for him, let alone the blood river that could kill Queen Medusa in an instant. And Poseidon, who was not much stronger than him, naturally had no chance of winning. If they went on the field, they might just be sent to wheat. Qian Renxue thought for a moment, looked at the beast, frowned. The veteran first-class god Daitian was nowhere to be seen. Where is Daitian? Biji nodded slightly, and said, Daitian just got the boss's order to go to Douluo Continent to select a location for the tavern, to open a branch. ! Then, when will he come back? Qian Renxue was dumbfounded. Why did he run away at the critical moment? Biji shook her head and said, I don't know about this. Qian Renxue smiled bitterly, looked at Biji and said, Miss Biji, no matter what our identities are, we are all natives of Douluo Continent. When outsiders attack, our interests are the same. Who is the same as you? If we cooperate with him, maybe we can make the soul beast better. Qian Jun laughed. Qian Renxue's eyes flickered. This is what he fears most. Bridget said, Don't worry, great priest. On this point, our soul beasts have the same interests as yours. We cannot allow outsiders to occupy our world. Yes, I am willing to fight that man. Shinhei said in a deep voice. Qian Renxue looked at Bridget with gratitude. Now let's sort out the combat power. The god-level strongmen of their native Douluo are Qian Renxue, Poseidon, Bibi Dong and Shinhei, but they have just been promoted to the god level. According to Queen Medusa's performance, the probability of them defeating Zhuqing is extremely low. So, we should challenge the worldly wine and use various methods to enhance our strength. Only in this way can we fight against foreign enemies. Qian Renxue said in a deep voice. Everyone nodded slightly. Yes, they must strengthen to have a hope of winning. And the worldly wine is the most direct way. In the picture, Zhuqing and Yansu came to a Ocean sect. Yansu pointed at the gate of the Ocean sect castle and said, This should be the strongest force in Douluo Continent. I always hear people say that the world's #1 sect is Ocean sect. Oh? It doesn't look special, there's not even a formation. And the aura inside, Zhuqing was skeptical, raised his hand, and shot out a red energy column. Boom. The gate of the Ocean sect was instantly blown down. There was a sound of chaos inside. Zhuqing said, Your strongest come out to see me. Immediately, a group of figures ran out, stood in front of the gate, and confronted Zhuqing and the others. 3 minutes later, Tang Chen and the elders came out. And the sect master Tang Xiao went to the slaughter city to rescue Tang San. Assholes! How dare you break the gate of my Ocean sect? Tang Chen shouted angrily. His divine position was broken and he became a soul Douluo at level 89, but his combat power was not simple. Are you the #1 sect on the continent? Zhuqing asked jokingly. Although their energies were different, they could still sense the threat, and the Ocean sect gave him the feeling that it was not as good as Queen Medusa, and was only slightly stronger than Yansu. Are you here to humiliate us? You're looking for death. Tang Chen's face was livid. How could the Ocean sect, after being punished by the Tavern, still be worthy of the reputation of the first sect? Isn't it just exposing their scars to talk about this now? In the past, Tang Chen would have rushed up to kill them. Chapter 258 Qian Renxue's faith humiliate you. You think too highly of yourselves. Zhuqing sneered and stared at the people of the Ocean sect. Although the cultivation system is different, his perception is very clear and he can detect the strength of the people of the Ocean sect. In comparison, they are far inferior to him, and the gap is a bit big. ANC also found the problem and said with a puzzled look, "Is this the world's #1 force? The strength is too weak, right? Looking for death." Tang Chen was furious. The ocean hammer in his hand swelled in the wind, and 8 circles of soul rings rose. His figure burst into the air and disappeared in an instant. The next second, he appeared in the air, and the ocean hammer, which was like a small mountain, fell down like a mountain. Boom, boom, boom. When everyone in Ocean Sect saw this scene, their eyes were shining. Even if Tang Chen's ancestor only had the 89th level of soul power, his strength was far beyond the ordinary title duo's strength. And Tang Chen's movements were too smooth and fast. Zhu He and ANC seemed not to notice it, and they didn't move at all. The ocean hammer fell down with a bang. The shadow covered them. Zhu He just stretched out a finger. Dong, the clear sky hammer hit the finger, like an ant trying to shake a tree. But the finger, which was quite slender in comparison, did not move at all when it touched the clear sky hammer, and there was no bending at all. Tang Chen was stunned. With this attack, he was confident that he could cripple a titled duo. But Zhu He under the clear sky hammer was as steady as a green mountain. The attack of the clear sky hammer was like the breeze and the falling snowflakes, and could not cause him any damage at all. "Your strength can't even please me. Tell me, how strong are you in this world?" Zhu He said lightly. Tang Chen's face was bloodshot, his eyes were bloodshot, and he roared, "Go to hell." The 8th soul ring on Tang Chen's body exploded, and the clear sky hammer glowed red, with a stronger power, and continued to move downward. Zhu He's face showed a little more impatience, and he said coldly, "You are really embarrassed. Your attitude is totally unworthy of a strong man. I heard that you are one of the 3 great masters in this world. It's really disgusting." Zhu He bent his fingers and flicked them upwards. Bang! The mountain-like clear sky hammer instantly flew up. Tang Chen retreated and was blown away by the power of the clear sky hammer. The people of the clear sky sect rushed forward, each holding a hammer, but their clear sky hammers were no longer the strongest weapons and martial spirits they had in the past. Although they were loud, they did not have much power. Zhu He frowned and waved his hand. Red energy rushed out and rolled towards the people of the clear sky sect like a wave. Whether it was a low-level soul master or a powerful titled duo, they had no power to fight back when they were rolled up by the blood-colored energy. They were instantly lifted high and soared into the sky. Then they fell one after another, and were dizzy. "This bastard," the people of the clear sky sect looked at Zhu He in amazement. The overwhelming gap in strength. The people of the Ocean sect were completely unable to resist. Zhu He said coldly, "Now I will give you a chance. Tell me how strong you are in this world. I can spare your life, otherwise, you will all die today." The people of the Ocean sect fell to the ground and stared at Zhu He angrily. "You are not from Douluo Continent," someone exclaimed. "Yancy," I sneered. "How can such a powerful existence like you appear in your broken place? Now, those who know the current situation are heroes, don't do stupid things." The people of the Ocean sect were silent. The murderous aura exuded by the 2 opponents was not false. If they didn't obey, they would definitely die. With such a gap in strength, they had no chance of survival. But if they told the other party the information, a Ocean sect would become a clown, and betraying the interests of Douluo Continent would be despised by others. I would rather die than. Tang Chen rushed over again with red eyes. Zhu He looked at him calmly, and a powerful momentum burst out, instantly knocking Tang Chen away, spitting out a large mouthful of blood in the air. "Very good, it seems that you have made a choice." Zhu He raised his hand, murderous intent filled his eyes. "Wait. I can tell you. Our Ocean sect was once the #1 sect in the world, but because of the Tavern, we have been greatly weakened." Then our ancestor Tang Chen, an elder of the Ocean sect, said hurriedly. In the Tavern, everyone watched the whole process. Everyone's face was complicated and they sighed secretly. The Ocean sect, which was once so glorious, actually performed so badly under the hands of the powerful people from another world. Before, I said that the Ocean sect would always get up. How could the #1 sect in the world be easily damaged? But now, I think they are no longer worthy at the title of the #1 in the world. That's right, they are not worthy, they actually became traitors. It's a pity that they were so domineering and cruel before, but in front of the powerful people from another world, they actually became dogs. Everyone was disappointed with the fact that they might have performed worse in the position of the Ocean sect, but it did not affect their ridicule of the Ocean sect. After all, it was not them who faced the crisis of life and death. Qian Renxue sighed and looked at Poseidon. Tang Chen, who was once as famous as them, not only did not become a god, but fell to the soul Duo, and suffered such humiliation. How could they not sigh? Poseidon looked calm, with no strong emotional ups and downs on her face. She had let go of her feelings for Tang Chen. Okay, we have to speed up. Challenge the worldly wine and become stronger, so that we can deal with that alien strongmen. Qian Renxue nodded and said, okay. So they went to Liu Chang'an. Boss, we want to challenge the worldly wine. Beside Qian Renxue, there were Poseidon, Bibi Dong and Shanghai, all of whom were strong men who reached the god level, but their strength was far from being able to compete with Zhu. Looking at the high-spirited expressions of these people, Liu Chang'an nodded slightly. Okay, he likes this kind of customers who challenge the worldly wine. Of course. Liu Chang'an smiled. My wish is to get as much power as possible beyond the limit. After Qian Renxue finished speaking, he picked up the worldly wine without hesitation and poured it all into his mouth. For 10 seconds, Qian Renxue did not move at all. He looked resolute and said solemnly, the mission of the Angel Clan is to maintain peace on the continent. We eradicated the evil soul beasts back then. Now that foreign enemies are invading, we will not sit idly by. The strong belief infected everyone present. They all looked at Qian Renxue with admiration. Only Bibi Dong looked embarrassed. There are only 2 or 3 cats and kittens left in the Angel Clan. She has made an indelible contribution. If she had known this day would come, she would never have done it. 10 seconds later, Qian Renxue's body was still standing. Obviously, he had succeeded in that challenge, and his aura became even more powerful. Good. Applause immediately rang out in the tavern. Let me show you the power of the so-called Tianzun first. Qian Renxue left the tavern. Chapter 259. The situation is not good. Too weak. Too weak. Is there no one in this place who can make me a little happy? Yanxi. If this world doesn't even have a decent strong man, then there is no need for you snake people to take charge of our soul palace. You don't want to see that day, do you? After defeating the strongmen left behind by the Blue Dot Tyrannosaurus Rex family and the 7 Treasures Glazed sect, Zhu sighed like this. Yanxi's face changed, and he hurriedly smiled and said, Sir, why don't we go to the tavern now? The people in this world have some magical physiques, but it seems that they can't exert their due strength. Perhaps only the tavern owner can have the probability of making you happy. Zhu nodded slightly and said, Yes, I heard that the so-called strongmen of the top 3 sects are all in the tavern, so let's go and take a look. After defeating the top 3 sects in a row, Zhu, who didn't even breathe, had reduced his awe. Even if it was the treasure that Liu Chang'an took out to communicate between the 2 worlds, so what? If you are not strong enough, don't blame him for being rampant. Treasures have always been owned by those with virtue. Zhu and Yanxi flew to the tavern. And when they passed a forest, Zhu suddenly waved his hand upwards, and a huge red handprint pressed down from the sky. The next second, several figures fell from the sky. They were all soul masters, wearing coats that looked like wings. They flew up just now with the help of this thing. Zhu was full of malice and grinned. What's the situation with you? What's the thing on your back? It looks quite interesting. The other party is hostile and too strong. I will cover you, and you run away. The man in the front suddenly shouted loudly. Immediately, the other students with winged soul guides fled in all directions. You cover? Who do you think you are? How dare you cover what I want? Zhu smiled cruelly and gave his men around him a look. Immediately, all the other soul guides evacuated, but the man raised his hands in front of his chest. The next second, he carried a cannon on his shoulder. Go to hell, you bastard! A huge flame spurted out from the muzzle, accompanied by a terrifying sound, and a red energy bomb shot out fiercely. Boom! Zhu caught the shell like a red ball. What is this? It's quite interesting. Zhu squeezed it hard, and the red ball broke instantly. How is it possible? The man exclaimed. Stupid guy, there are still many things you don't know. Zhu was about to show off, and a sharp sword light suddenly shot from above. He dodged hastily, and Zhu's sleeves were torn, revealing his pale skin. He looked at the person who came angrily. It was a golden figure, emitting a holy light all over his body. Are you the god of this world? Zhu looked at the person who came in confusion. The person who came was naturally Qian Renxue, who had been enhanced. He knew that now there was a live broadcast, and his task was to slow down the rhythm as much as possible, so that Zhu could fully demonstrate his skills. Of course, it would be better if he could win directly. It's just a humble mortal. Qian Renxue snorted coldly. God, he, I want to see how strong you are. Zhu rushed to Qian Renxue in an instant. Bang. Zhu's fist hit Qian Renxue's holy sword hard. Bang. Qian Renxue retreated for dozens of seconds, with a look of astonishment on his face. Although he didn't know how much strength the other party had, at least he didn't use 100% of his strength. You have some skills. How about it? Are you interested in being my servant? You will be the steward of this continent in the future. Manage this place for us. Zhu's face was calm, and he extended his hand to invite. Wishful thinking. I'll kill you first. Qian Renxue swung out several extremely sharp sword beams, all surrounding Zhu. Zhu dodged, and at the same time, the blood road behind him was untied, and it suddenly turned into a sea of blood, surrounding him and Qian Renxue. Zhu smiled evilly. With this sea of blood as a prison, who can escape from his palm? In the tavern, most of the people who saw this scene were heartbroken and prayed secretly. After Qian Renxue was strengthened, his combat ability must be stronger. But now he is being beaten directly by Zhu. Could it be that none of the strong men in their blue world can deal with him? The great priest has been strengthened, but he is still easily taken down. If it was someone else, he would be blown away in one breath. I can understand the great priest, but who can understand us? Yes, I have the same feeling now. However, things are not that bad yet. Everyone talked about it, and seeing that the waitresses in the tavern were so happy, they were no longer afraid. Bibi Dong lay on Liu Chang'an's shoulder, blew a breath of hot air, and said, "Young master, I will challenge you later, can you open a back door for me?" Is this woman talking about anything now? What does it mean to open a back door? Of course, if he really had a date with Bibi Dong, he would definitely try his best to get her. Liu Chang'an said in a deep voice, "Don't do those crooked ways. If you can succeed, you will naturally enhance your strength. Even if you wish to surpass the God King level, you can definitely defeat the other party." Bibi Dong looked at Liu Chang'an with resentment and said, "Our relationship is also about these things, be honest, otherwise it will be more difficult for you later." Liu Chang'an said. Bibi Dong didn't dare to make trouble anymore and stood beside Liu Chang'an honestly. "Boss, I want to challenge the worldly wine," Poseidon said. Liu Chang'an nodded slightly and gave her 3 bowls of worldly wine. Poseidon was also very neat. He didn't say a word of nonsense and just drank it directly. After drinking it all, she closed her eyes and stood. Everyone looked at Poseidon nervously. Especially now in the light curtain, Qian Renxue failed to defeat Zhu and had already fled in defeat, and it seemed that he couldn't force Zhu to use his full strength. It cast a shadow on their hearts. They can only hope for the 3 god-level powerhouses behind. 10 seconds passed, and Poseidon opened her eyes. There was a bright light in her eyes, and her breath was restrained, but everyone could tell at a glance that she was an unattainable strong man. She was very similar to the water god, one of the elemental gods. Her strength should be even greater than Qian Renxue. Poseidon said, "I'll go first, and pick up Qian Renxue by the way. After your challenge is over, quickly join us and besiege the Blood River together." Okay. Bibi Dong and Shanghai both nodded in agreement. The next second, Poseidon turned into a ball of water light and disappeared. "I also want to challenge the worldly wine. Blue Star is our home, and we can't allow others to invade it," Shanghai said righteously. "The Spirit Hall has an obligation and duty. Bibi Dong is also going to challenge the worldly wine." They picked up the wine bowl at the same time and drank it all at the same time. They closed their eyes at the same time. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novel, as there you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 260. The Sunday and Moon Visitors. Qian Renxue was seriously injured and fled, turning into a ray of golden light and disappearing into the horizon. Zhu put away the sea of blood surrounding him, and smiled contemptuously, saying, "Is this a god-level powerhouse? 10 rings, that's all." "Of course. Compared to you, sir, even a god-level powerhouse is like an ant," Yansui said with a smile. Zhu snorted coldly, looking at Qian Renxue, who turned into a small dot and was about to disappear, and said, "How many gods did the tavern owner suppress?" "It seems to be less than 10, Yansui asked in confusion. 10 guys like this are not my opponent. How strong can a so-called tavern owner be? Go back to the Douluo Continent now and help me call people." We, the Soul Palace, have taken over this world. Zhu threw a token to Yan Xi, then disappeared, turning into a small black dot and chasing after Qian Renxue. Boom. A continuous sonic boom sounded. In the sky, two lights, gold and red, slid past quickly. The gold was in front and the red was behind, but the distance between them was closing rapidly. 3 minutes later, the red light hit the gold light fiercely, and the gold light fell from the sky at a high speed. Bang! The golden light hit a mountain and then rolled down. After bumping and rolling to the foot of the mountain, the golden armor on Qian Renxue's body had been broken, and his body was covered with blood, like a blood gourd, and his face was pale. He fled all the way and didn't know where he was. He opened his eyes and the sky above was also dark red. Although he had become stronger, he was still no match for the strong man from another world. Now that he was seriously injured, he had no hope of escaping. "Sir, do you need help?" A gentle voice sounded. In front of Qian Renxue, a sweet face appeared, looking at him with concern. It was a very beautiful girl. The girl picked up Qian Renxue and handed him a glass of water. She said to the man not far away, "Teacher, this senior is seriously injured. The self-healing soul guide we brought with us seems to be unable to cure his injuries. Juicy, don't be impulsive." The man called teacher shook his head slightly. Qian Renxue half squinted his eyes. He could hardly see the face of the man 2 meters away. The next second, Juicy pierced his neck with a syringe. Qian Renxue groaned, and a cold energy appeared in his body, repairing his broken internal organs. "Quick, run, don't care about me." Qian Renxue spit out a few bites with effort. Juicy lowered his head to listen to his words, his face changed slightly, and repeated it to teacher Qian Renxue. "It's over. Are we involved in a dangerous situation? We are new to this continent, we shouldn't meddle in other people's business." Another girl complained. "I'm sorry, geek." Juicy showed an apologetic look on his face. They were a team of scientific researchers from the Sun Moon Empire who were visiting the area. While collecting intelligence, they saw a golden light hit the mountain. It was not far away, so they came to watch out of curiosity. Unexpectedly, they seemed to be involved in a crisis. Excited said, "Let's go quickly." Didn't this senior also say not to care about him? As she spoke, the square soul guide behind him emitted green light from the bottom, exerting force upwards, lifting her up and leaving her feet off the ground. The other 2 young men also activated their flying soul guides. Teacher Qian Renxue said, "Juicy, leave quickly." As soon as the work fell, a strong weight suddenly descended. Everyone present was forced to fall down by this pressure. "Ouch!" cried out in pain. The next second, the flying soul guide behind her was suddenly taken off. It was Yu who was chasing after her. He waved the flying soul guide and pressed a few times, and the soul guide suddenly flew out by itself. Zhu smiled when he saw this. "It's interesting. Your world is quite useful. In their Jiki continent, you can't fly unless you were a dueling. But with this little thing, even ordinary people can fly, right? No matter how slow Zhu is, he can realize how much value the flying soul guide contains." "What is this thing called?" Zhu asked, keep with a smile. Everyone present was suppressed by his majestic aura. They lay on the ground and couldn't even use the soul power to activate the soul guide. They all realized that they had encountered a tough guy. Keep was closest to Zhu, and her face turned pale with fear, and she couldn't speak. Qian Renxue immediately said, "Senior, this is called a flying soul guide. We made it. You were a good little guy, and you know how to show your value. In this case, are you willing to work for me?" Zhu nodded slightly and asked with a smile. "Yes." Qian Renxue said immediately. "We're willing." The 2 young men also responded hurriedly. Zhu smiled with satisfaction. It would be great if everyone in this world was as sensible as them. Zhu walked to Qian Renxue and said, "You are quite powerful. Are you willing to follow me? You will be in charge of this world in the future. How about that?" Qian Renxue closed his eyes, snorted coldly, and said, "Do you think you were invincible? In front of the tavern owner, you are still weak, not even much stronger than an ant sees this world. Have you asked the owner for his opinion? You are looking for death." Qian Renxue deliberately misled Zhu, making him think that the tavern owner owned this world. Zhu frowned and said coldly, "I will go to the tavern myself. All of you follow me. Follow me to see that so-called tavern." Zhu soared into the air and went there. Qian Renxue and others looked at each other. Their mission this time was to collect intelligence, but the most important thing was actually about the tavern. Now, by accident, they still have to go to the tavern. In the tavern, everyone has seen this scene. Too arrogant. That guy actually thought he could be stronger than the tavern and the boss. I think he doesn't know how to write the word death. When he comes, the boss can crush him to death with just one finger. There is no need for the boss to take action. The stronger Lord Poseidon and his men can defeat him. Yes. It's a pity that the Lord High Priest is fighting alone. If they all come together, they will definitely be able to do it. Everyone was talking about it, filled with righteous indignation. Shinhei glanced around and said to Bibi Dong, who was still comprehending the power. The Pope, please stay. I will go after the High Priest immediately. If we join forces, maybe we can defeat him. Bibi Dong was still comprehending the power with her eyes closed, motionless. Shinhei turned and left. Looking at this scene, Illyana couldn't help but ask Liu Chang'an, boss, if the teacher and his men can't beat that guy, will you take action? No. Liu Chang'an shook his head. Exclamation mark, exclamation mark, exclamation mark. Illyana's face turned pale. The people in the whole tavern also felt a jolt in their hearts. Chapter 261 2 verses 1. Soon, Bibi Dong also opened her eyes. She had just consolidated her skyrocketing strength. The power she wished for was what she could achieve in the future, but the time was advanced. In fact, they were all able to challenge the worldly wine successfully, relying not only on faith. There were also various constraints to achieve the goal, such as only one day. Bibi Dong was the same. She looked at the people in the spirit hall. Everyone looked at her worriedly. Your Majesty, the great priest was defeated and captured by the other party. Douluo sighed. Bibi Dong nodded slightly, I know. Bibi Dong looked at Liu Chang'an again, with a smile on her face, and said softly, Chang'an, if I lose, he wants to kill me, will you save me or not? We'll know once we try. Liu Chang'an did not answer directly. If he told the truth, Bibi Dong would definitely be very proud. This woman is easy to cause trouble when she is arrogant, so she has to suppress it. Bibi Dong smiled and said, Chang'an, you still like me? Liu Chang'an did not answer. Bibi Dong looked at Liu Chang'an deeply and left the tavern. And in the picture, Zhu was forced to stop again. In front of him, Poseidon stopped him. Poseidon held a scepter in his hand and looked at Zhu calmly. She exuded the power of the ocean, which no one could ignore. Zhu frowned and said, you are stronger than this guy, and you give me a sense of threat. What level are you in this world? Can you rank in the top 10? Let them disperse and we will know after fighting. Poseidon said lightly. Interesting. I like your personality as a woman. Zhu smiled, waved his hand, and asked Xuan Ziwen and others to take Qian Renxue away, and said, don't run too far. If you want to escape and are caught by me, you'll die. Xuan Ziwen and others were shocked, responded, and retreated quickly. They retreated 10 miles away. Poseidon suddenly waved the scepter in his hand and aimed it at Zhu. The next moment, a large amount of seawater suddenly gushed out from the foot of the blood river, lifted him up and took him to the sky. Poseidon also rushed up. Xuan Ziwen and others who were watching this scene moved their eyes. Teacher, what should we do? This person doesn't look like a good person. Following him is like seeking the skin of a tiger. Juzi looked at Xuan Ziwen and asked. Xuan Ziwen said, let's go to the tavern. Senior, you should know the direction of the tavern, right? If it is the tavern, can it shelter us? Xuan Ziwen asked Qian Renxue on his back. Qian Renxue grinned and said, it's not far. Go west for more than 200 miles and you will see the tavern town, the tavern is there. As long as we enter, we will be safe. Xuan Ziwen nodded vigorously, his face firm, and said, okay. Let's set off now. As he spoke, the flying soul guide behind Xuan Ziwen spewed out a stronger light. Teacher, wait. That man is too strong. We can't disobey him. If we follow him, won't we also go to the tavern? If the tavern can really shelter us, it won't be too late for us to go in later, right? If we run away now, we will die if we are caught. Said the sturdy young man Wang Xiaojie. Wang Xiaojie. If you were afraid, then you can stay by yourself. That madman is obviously not a good person. We are leaving first. Said loudly, activated the flying soul guide, and chased after him. Zimu. You should think the same as I do, right? Wang Xiaojie looked at the other young man. Zimu shook his head, also activated the flying soul guide, and followed them away. Xiao looked angry and said, "A bunch of bastards just left me like this. If the strong man is angry with me because of this, won't I be in trouble? Don't blame me for being so cruel, you bastards who don't know how to adapt to the environment at all." Xiao gritted his teeth, activated the flying soul guide, and flew straight into the sky. He was going to complain to Zhu. And in the sky of the battlefield, it became a sea. The Blood Sea and the Azure Ocean became two distinct parts. Zhu and Poseidon controlled the two seas respectively, colliding and destroying each other. The 10 soul rings on Poseidon's body were all shining, all golden, emitting golden light. From time to time, the Blue Sea set off a tornado with waves and rushed towards the Blood River. The huge waves formed by the Blue Sea were like the palms of a giant, slapping that Blood River. Zhu laughed and said, "It's interesting. However, you are far from being my opponent. I admire you as a woman very much. You make me moved. When I win, you will be my woman." Facing the huge wave handprint that came over, Zhu also hit a palm, and the Blood Sea around him condensed into a giant palm at the same time. The two palms collided brazenly. Boom! Blue and red light suddenly appeared. The blue giant palm shattered and turned into a heavy rain, while the red giant palm was only shattered in half. Zhu pursued the victory, and rushed towards Poseidon. The fighting spirit around him carried the Blood Sea and turned into a huge cone, rushing towards the Blue Sea where Poseidon was. The Blue Sea could not stop the attack of Zhu. Poseidon's face sank. Looking at the Blood River approaching quickly, she launched dozens of attacks, but she could not stop the opponent at all. At this time, she had realized the difference in strength between the two sides. If it was Lord Poseidon, he should be able to defeat him. It's a pity that Lord Poseidon is missing. Poseidon maintained the Blue Sea and sighed secretly. While sighing, Poseidon would not sit and wait for death. The red skirt on her body was no different in the seawater and in the air. It fluttered gently. She kept retreating. In the seawater, she was the most sensitive fish. "Where else can you run to? Watch me capture you." Zhu crashed through a few more waves, and suddenly shot out from the cone-shaped Blood Sea like a cicada escaping from its shell, bursting out at a faster speed, and approaching Poseidon at a very fast speed. The distance between the two was reduced in an instant, leaving less than 100 meters. And this distance was too close for the two strong men. At this moment, a voice sounded. "Great worshipper. I'll help you. Our cooperation should be the most appropriate." Plop. Then, a huge deep-sea demon whale crashed into the Blue Sea. It swung its tail and slapped Zhu. Under the fish tail that was bigger than 10 carriages, he was a little too small. Bang! Zhu was hit right on the spot. He fell down instantly, and the deep-sea demon whale king took advantage of the victory and bit him with a bloody mouth. "Be careful in the deep sea. Don't be impatient," Poseidon shouted hurriedly. But her shout was still too late. The deep-sea demon whale king bit Zhu and wanted to swallow him into his stomach. At this moment, its mouth suddenly exploded, blood and flesh flew, dyeing the surrounding seawater red. "Just a beast. Dare to go against me." Zhu got out of trouble and sneered at the deep-sea demon whale king. Chapter 262. Fine wine. Panacea. "Hurry. The tavern is in front," Zhu exclaimed excitedly. The people of the Sunday and Moon Empire flew over the forest and saw the market town in the distance. The tavern square in the market town was the most conspicuous. The statue standing on it exuded a sense of divinity. The first thing everyone saw was it. "Is that a tavern? From the outside, it doesn't look special," said in surprise. "No need to say more, let's go in first," Qian Renxue said in a deep voice. The four people, with the Enjokai and Liu, landed in the square in front of the tavern. As soon as they landed, a group of people surrounded them. "What is this? They are obviously not titled Luo, but they can fly? Too amazing, right? Look who is behind them. Isn't that the Great Priest? How is it possible? The Great Priest? Who hurt the Great Priest to this extent?" Everyone looked at Qian Renxue behind Qian Renxue in surprise. Qian Renxue led everyone into the tavern. As soon as they entered, Keep couldn't help but cover her mouth and exclaimed, "How come the house is so small outside and suddenly becomes so spacious after entering? Did we come to the wrong place?" Juicy squeezed Keep's hand and whispered, "Stop talking, otherwise how can we say that the tavern is magical?" Keep suddenly fell silent. Juicy was stunned for a moment, and looked in the direction of her gaze. In front of the counter at the back, a well-mannered young man was chatting with a vixen-like girl. And Keith's eyes naturally focused on the young man. The first time she saw him, Juicy couldn't help but widen her eyes. She had only one thought in her mind, that was God. That was her God. He was simply the embodiment of beauty. Juicy pursed her lips, otherwise, she was afraid that saliva would flow out. Keith suddenly pulled her sleeve. Hey, Juicy, did you see that man? One day, I will marry him. Not as a wife, but as a mistress. Juicy curled her lips and whispered, be reserved, geek. The little girl is very ambitious, but it's not that easy to get the boss's favor. Mistress. The women who want to be the boss mistress can line up from the tavern to Xingluo City, just wait and see. A middle-aged female spirit master said with a smile. Keith blushed, she was just talking nonsense with her bestie, and she hadn't decided whether to really do that. At this time, the spirit masters of the spirit hall ran over. Qian Renxue came first. She looked at Qian Daily worriedly, and said with concern, Grandpa. Buy some wine. Xuan Ziwen put Qian Daily down. Qian Daily smiled at Qian Renxue and called out, Miss Dugyu, please give me a bottle of Chenghui wine and a bottle of Padugaham wine. Dugyan turned over her palm and fine wine appeared in her palm. Xuan Ziwen was stunned when he saw this. He was seriously injured, but he still wanted to drink. Compared with the group of Earth Soul Masters in Douluo Continent, Sun Moon Continent pays more attention to science. Xuan Ziwen kindly reminded, Senior, you are seriously injured now, it is best not to drink, no matter how good the wine is. Gong gong. Qian Daily had finished a pot of wine, and then the second pot, completely ignoring the advice. And when he drank, the injuries on his body healed at a rapid speed. The originally depressed mental state was also completely restored. These bottles of wine don't look like wine, but like a panacea for the living dead and the flesh and bones. This, Xuan Ziwen was stunned. Orange and the other two are even more stunned. Is this the magic of the legendary tavern? Zimu murmured, I guess Wang Xiaojie will regret it to death. If he came with us, he would definitely be safe. Even this injury can be cured with just wine. Juicy and both nodded, and the winner was immediately decided. The tavern owner hasn't made a move yet, but the effect of a few bottles of fine wine has already convinced them. Grandpa, are you okay? Qian Renxue said worriedly. She is now acting in her true appearance, and there is no power that can change the current situation. Qian Daily nodded slightly, with a touch of embarrassment on his face. I was arrogant. I thought I could kill that alien strongman alone, but I was severely taught a lesson. Xiao, did Poseidon win? Qian Daily asked with concern. He was not concerned about the results of the battle. To be precise, he was concerned about Poseidon's safety. Golden Crocodile Douluo shook his head. He had fallen to such a state, and the great priest was still thinking about the goddess. It was really inappropriate and inappropriate. There is no future for being a licking dog. The high priest, Qian Renxue, looked at the light curtain. In the picture, Poseidon and Shanghai were defeated. Qian Daily was anxious and said, I have to go to support them. Grandpa. Qian Renxue shouted, but Qian Daily didn't even turn his head and flew away directly. Exclamation mark, exclamation mark, exclamation mark. Qian Renxue stamped her feet, feeling extremely helpless. Xuan Ziwen and others asked the spirit masters of the spirit hall about the magic of the tavern. They all had tasks, and now they came directly to the tavern, naturally thinking about challenging the worldly wine. The Sunday and Moon Empire can develop for 10,000 years, thanks to the worldly wine. The picture turned. In the sky, the blue light shattered. Poseidon and Shanghai retreated more than 1,000 meters and flew backwards. Shanghai's blood was scattered in the sky. A deep wound was torn at the position of the fin of the body, and even rows of white bones could be seen, with a layer of red energy attached to it, eroding its life. He turned into a human form, and there was an extra wound on his chest, and he had become a bloody man. Poseidon was grabbed by a huge bloody hand. His injuries were not much lighter. He was uncomfortable fighting 1 against 2. But seeing the 2 being defeated, he laughed and said, who else? Beauty. I really like you more and more. I want you to be my wife. He laughed loudly. Poseidon looked at him coldly and said, do you think you won? What else? Do you and the beast still have the energy to resist me? He sneered again and again. Poseidon said nothing, and suddenly there was a bottle of wine in his hand, which he poured directly into his mouth. Shanghai, who rushed over, also drank a bottle of wine. After drinking the wine, all the injuries on their bodies disappeared. Open! Poseidon shouted loudly, and a blue light burst out from his body, instantly breaking the bloody hand. Zhu was stunned for a moment and said in surprise, "What kind of elixir are you taking?" "The elixir that can instantly restore the Dou's unstrong men, even in the Douluo Continent." He has never seen it. And in this weak world, it actually appeared. Now that Poseidon and Deep Sea have recovered to their peak, Zhu is confident that he can defeat them again, but the problem is that if they can still replenish their status, he will be exhausted sooner or later. "It would be better to wait for me, so that we don't lose." A teasing voice sounded, and then the color of the sky suddenly changed, adding a dark red that was deeper and more evil than Zhu. Bibi Dong suddenly appeared in the air, with colorful butterfly wings behind her and a ferocious spider king under her feet. Chapter 263 Victory. Boom! Bibi Dong came up with a fierce blow, and her two wings merged together, like a huge guillotine. With the power of wind and thunder, she slashed at Zhu. "I'll come too." Shinhei laughed. He had fully recovered. A huge fish tail rose behind him, and slapped Zhu from the side like slapping a fly. Poseidon was also unwilling to be lonely. His divine power burst out, and seawater appeared out of thin air in the space of 100 miles, and then solidified. And Zhu was frozen in this seawater. The next moment, Bibi Dong's attack came, and the huge guillotine cut through the space. The colorful light shone on Zhu's face, and the sharp blade tore the space first. Zhu shouted, and a blood-colored light shield appeared in front of him. Boom, boom, boom. The colorful guillotine and the blood shield collided brazenly. The brilliant light was like sparks. Zhu's face changed drastically. After this fight, he realized that Bibi Dong's strength was definitely at the same level as his. Now, he was severely exhausted, so naturally he was not as good as Bibi Dong. Not to mention, Bibi Dong now had two helpers. Bang! The colorful guillotine retreated backwards. The blood-colored light shield dimmed a lot, and before Zhu could take a breath, the huge fish tail slapped down again. Bang! Zhu only had time to offer the blood-colored light shield upwards. The fish tail was like hitting a nail, hitting him. The ice around Zhu all exploded, and he also fell down at a high speed. The blood-colored light shield exploded, and he spit out a large mouthful of blood. This was the first time he had suffered such a serious injury since he came to Douluo Continent. Zhu was furious, and he said angrily, "One day my soul palace will come. I will grind you to ashes." After saying this, Zhu planned to run away first. Whoosh! Bibi Dong was much faster. She flapped her gorgeous wings, caught up with Zhu from behind, and hit him hard again, shooting out two ripple-like cross-green rays. Eternal creation. The rope behind Zhu rolled up, turning into a blood curtain across the air. The green ripples went straight through the blood curtain and continued to chase Zhu. Too fast, too sudden. Zhu didn't react at all, and the green ripples hit him from behind. Zzz. A huge cross-shaped wound immediately appeared on Zhu's back, from the shoulder to the hip. Blood and flesh were blurred, and blood was spurting into the air. Ah! Zhu was furious. At this moment, a phantom of a deep-sea demon whale with a body length of more than 500 meters opened its huge mouth from below and bit him. Zhu hurriedly dodged to the side again. And on the side, there was another green spider emperor. The terrifying aura emitted by the spider emperor was more frightening than the deep-sea demon whale Zhengjing. At this moment, Zhu was really desperate. In the tavern, everyone who saw this scene was extremely excited. That's it. In the end, the Pope of our Spirit Hall is still the most powerful. Thanks to the Spirit Hall. The Spirit Hall has indeed taken on the responsibility as the Pope promised. I have decided to join the Spirit Hall today. I believe that the Spirit Hall will embark on a smooth road under the leadership of the Pope. We won. But don't get too excited about the fight. That alien is obviously not the strongest in another world, and the Pope and his men's enhanced strength should not be permanent, right? Someone raised doubts. Everyone's joy was reduced a lot. Yes, the four people succeeded in challenging the mortal wine. Even with the threat of the Great Star disaster, how could the success rate be so high? Without thinking, you can guess that there are many more constraints in the wish to become stronger. And the time limit is undoubtedly immediate. Maybe they can do this the next time the enemy comes, but don't forget that there is a limit to the number of mortal wine challenges. When it reaches 300 million gold soul coins, 3 billion, or even 30 billion, maybe the Glue World can tighten its belt to make it up. But when the time comes to 300 billion, will they still be able to take it out? When the 4 God-level masters cannot challenge, who can protect the Great Star? Thinking of this, everyone's enthusiasm faded a lot. The boss will not take action easily, but if we're in trouble, the gods of the God realm should take action, right? Someone looked at the elemental gods. The water god responded gently. Of course the God realm will take action. But because the opponent is not God level, we also have many restrictions. It is impossible to stay in Douluo Star forever, and we may not be able to exert our full strength. Question mark, question mark, question mark. Everyone present looked at the water god with a look of seeing a ghost. The strength of that alien strongman can beat the God level, so why is he not considered God level? The water god saw their confusion and said, although I don't know why they have such powerful power, they are indeed still in the category of human beings. So the water god shook his head and could do nothing to help. Everyone felt as uncomfortable as if they had eaten a fly. Xuan Ziwen and others quickly learned about the situation in the tavern from the spirit masters of the spirit hall. Juicy whispered to Keek. It seems that although the people of Douluo Continent have not developed soul guides, there are gods, the 2 continents should be able to coexist peacefully, right? That's not something we should consider. What we should think about is, with my looks, can I take down the tavern owner? Keek blinked her big watery eyes and stared at Liu Chang'an. Question mark, question mark, question mark. Juicy looked at Keek in confusion. Keek said as a matter of course, stupid. If I take down the tavern owner, doesn't that mean I have conquered everything? Whatever you want to do, you can achieve it. ... Juicy twitched the corner of his mouth and did not comment. On the other side, Zhu Yu was suppressed by Bibi Dong and the other 2, and Qian Renxue also rushed over at a high speed. The 4 God-level strongmen all sealed Zhu Yu once, greatly suppressing the opponent's strength. Bibi Dong said, he is a strong man from another world, but we don't know if there will be anyone else come in, so we should go and negotiate with Queen Medusa and see what happens. That's right, we can't kill him for now. Qian Renxue nodded and smiled. Seeing Bibi Dong using her brain instead of shouting and killing directly, he was very satisfied and realized the fact that Bibi Dong had really changed. It should be so. Poseidon and Shanghai nodded. Zhu Yu was caught by Shanghai, dying, and sneered, don't waste your energy. I have already transmitted the situation of this world back. It won't be long before the power of our soul palace will come. Then all of you rebels will be killed. Of course, if you are willing to let me go. I promise you that I will never retaliate against you, and I will even report the situation to our tribe leader, and you will rule this world. Zhu Yu was subdued, but his words were still proud. Bibi Dong and the other 4 ignored him and took him to the Snape tribe quickly. Chapter 264 not over yet. Snape tribe. Bibi Dong and others came to the gate. When they approached, Kailin and Yunmei had already appeared in front of the gate, waiting for them to land. The 2 groups met, and Kailin saw the blood river held by Shanghai and raised his eyebrows slightly. You actually defeated him? Challenged Shanghai Zhu? Kailin asked curiously. These are not important. The problem is to prevent subsequent problems. Is he the strongest in your world? How many are stronger than him? Bibi Dong asked. Kailin pondered for a moment and said, his realm should be called Dozun. Above him, there are Doshan, divided into 9 stars. It's probably equivalent to the level of Soul Duo, and the number of Soul Duo. Bibi Dong and others' faces sank. Soul Duo is a rare strong man in the world of Douluo Continent, but there are more than 30 titled Duo above him. By analogy, it can be concluded that there are many Doshan in Bibi Continent. It takes a lot of effort for them to defeat a Dozun, and they can't fight for a long time. If more Dozun or even Doshan come, they will not be strong enough, and they will have to lead them out of the tavern. It must be blocked immediately. Queen Medusa. Destroy your bronze door. Bibi Dong said in a deep voice. Shanghai added. If you don't want to harm our world. The 4 of them released their divine power, looming and locking Kailin. If Kailin refuses to cooperate, they will definitely take ruthless action. This is related to the safety of Douluo Continent. Kailin narrowed her eyes. She felt clearly that with her current strength, she could not beat any of these 4 god-level powerhouses, so she could only compromise. Rude. Yunmei said angrily. Bibi Dong gave her a joking look and said, so what if you are rude? Are you going to move out of Chang'an? You can fool Zhuyi, but you can't fool us. Exclamation mark, exclamation mark, exclamation mark. Yunmei was stunned for a moment. Why did Bibi Dong know that she was lying? Kailin's face was embarrassed, and he said coldly, okay, I can destroy the bronze door. Everyone focused their attention on him again. Kailin waved her hand, and a green light flew out, fell to the ground, and turned into a bronze door. She said coldly, "All members of the Snape tribe, enter. Teleportation will no longer be enabled in the future. Only 10 minutes." Under the gaze of everyone, snakemen walked out of the bronze door one after another. Almost all of them were old snakemen. An old snakeman said, "Queen, we're here to persuade you. The roots of our Snape tribe are there. You can't give it up. Although this world is good, shut up. Either stay or get out." Kailin said coldly. The old snakeman's face turned pale, and he turned around and entered the bronze door angrily. Then, several more old snakemen followed him in. 10 minutes later, Kailin raised his hand and grabbed the bronze door. The bronze door was instantly covered with cracks. Crack, crack, crack. Everyone could see that the bronze door was about to break. At this moment, a voice sounded from the opposite side. "Is this the so-called portal? Through this door, you can go to another world. Interesting, interesting. Even I can't see through this bronze door. Is there someone behind that door? I seem to sense the breath of the blood river." Dong dong dong, the bronze door was suddenly knocked. A strong fear emerged in everyone's heart. The owner of the voice on the opposite side has not appeared yet, but the voice alone has made Bibi Dong and others terrified. Even if their strength is now strengthened, they are definitely not the opponent of the person on the opposite side of the bronze door. This, Yu Mei was incoherent. We must not let him come over. Let's attack together. Destroy the bronze door. Bibi Dong shouted in a deep voice, and a green spear appeared in his hand. With a flash of green light, it stabbed the door frame of the bronze door fiercely. Qian Renxue and others also attacked the bronze door. The cracks on the bronze door became more and more. At this time, golden light appeared on the bronze door again, and the golden light was actually maintaining the bronze door to prevent it from collapsing. Palace Master. I'm right here. This is, bang. The blood river suddenly exploded, and blood rushed out like a sea. Bibi Dong and the others were all washed out by the blood sea, and the bronze door was also washed away by the blood sea. Not good. Stop it. Bibi Dong broke away from the blood sea and threw a green lightning. Boom. The door frame of the bronze door was penetrated by this green light. The bronze door was still not annihilated, and even a hand stretched out from the black hole in the center of the door. Oh no. Everyone was shocked. If this peerless strong man broke through, it would definitely be a catastrophe for Douluo Continent. Qian Renxue emitted golden light, and the angel statue appeared behind him, holding the holy sword high, and slashed at the bronze door fiercely. Bang! The holy sword chopped on the arm that stretched out of the bronze door. The arm was not cut off, the sleeve was broken, but the arm didn't even break the skin. "I will come," the voice behind that door sounded again. The next second, a corner of the bronze door shattered, and the black hole in the middle disappeared. Everyone looked at Kailin. Kailin spat out a mouthful of blood, his face pale, and said, "So, are you satisfied?" In the tavern. Seeing the bronze door completely shattered, everyone breathed a sigh of relief. It was really that the pressure from the strong men from the other world was too strong. A river of blood made them send out 4 strong men. If it was 3, they might not win. And the man who didn't appear on the stage later, but just spoke and stretched out his hand, was even more terrifying. Even through the light curtain, seeing Bibi Dong and others trying to interrupt the bronze door, they held their breath and dared not breathe. The pressure was transmitted. Great, the bronze door leading to the 2 worlds is broken. No matter how strong the people in the other world are, they can't do anything. I don't think it's that simple. Didn't you notice? Why did the man named Zhu suddenly explode? He must be trying to convey some information to the other world. With his strength, he might be able to come here without the bronze door. Damn. Don't forget. Didn't Daiqian follow that boss's instructions to find a branch location in the Douluo Continent? When the day comes, won't the 2 worlds still be connected? ... Everyone's face changed. The bronze door is just a small fight. The most serious thing is the opening of a branch of the Tavern. Once the 2 worlds are connected, won't they fall into danger? Everyone in the Sunday and Moon Empire looked at each other when they heard this. They came here to collect intelligence, so how come they heard so many explosive news? With the arrival of the strong from another world, they can't escape from the Sunday and Moon Road. Only by challenging the worldly wine can we become stronger. Only by challenging the risks. Xuan Ziwing said in a deep voice. He no longer has the pride in the soul guide. Soul guides cannot protect the Sun Moon Empire, only earthly wine can do that. Chapter 265 Tang San returns. Chang'an, are we really going to open a branch in that Douluo Continent? Zhu Zhuqing approached Liu Chang'an and asked curiously. The others pricked up their ears and looked nervous when they heard this. This is a major event related to the safety of Douluo Continent. Who made the gap between the strong and the weak so huge? Liu Chang'an nodded slightly and said, yes, there is such a plan. In the near future, a branch will be opened in Douluo Continent. Of course, people from the two worlds who shuttle through the tavern will be restricted and must not harm the other world. Hearing this, everyone breathed a sigh of relief and showed a relaxed expression on their faces. With the boss's guarantee, they are not afraid at all. No matter how strong the strong people in the other world are, can they be stronger than the boss? As long as there is a boss to restrain them, they are at the same starting line, and all beings are equal. In front of the tiger, there is no difference between rabbits and mice. Are you all relieved? There are always rules for doing things in the tavern. Zhu Zhuqing glanced at everyone proudly. She asked this question specifically for everyone, and by the way, she showed off her special relationship with Liu Chang'an. Zhu Zhuqing curled her lips, disdainful of her sister's childish idea. Thank you, Miss Zhu. Miss Zhu is beautiful and kind. No wonder she and the boss can finally get married. Whatever Miss Zhu wants in the future, we're willing to serve you. ... A burst of flattery immediately rang out in the tavern. The sound was already considered noisy, but Deming and Erming did not stop it. After all, Zhu Zhuqing had a very good relationship with the boss, so they had to be cautious and did not dare to say anything. Zhu Zhuqing was even more proud, with her chin raised and humming a little song. Although she is just a maid now, to the outside world, even the titled Douluo at the Spirit Hall, the Emperor and Prince of the Empire, and even the gods of the God Realm, who dares to look down on her? Who dares not to give her 3 points of face? If there weren't so many people now, she would have called herself the boss's wife. Glancing at the proud look, Zhu Zhuqing's mouth curled even deeper. What was the point of being proud? If it weren't for her help, she could only look at Liu Chang'an with red eyes now. Zhu Zhuqing felt a little sour in her heart, and suddenly regretted helping her sister. The other women who cared about Liu Chang'an were even more uncomfortable. Why? Why did this woman reach the finish line before them, and why is she so proud now? Isn't it just your good figure? Isn't it just your good sister? Apart from these, they are not bad. Nine Rong gritted her teeth, and the excitement of being blessed by the god of destruction and having her potential greatly improved was swept away. She said angrily, I'm so angry. Dad, I must become a boss lady. Nine Fengzi smiled slightly, rubbed Nine Rong's head, and said with a smile, it's a good wish. But Rong, you are still young now, let's not rush, don't rush, Dad still wants you to stay with me for a while. But I asked around, Zhu Zhuqing is not older yet. Nine Rong muttered in dissatisfaction. Not as old as you. Dug Yan next to him heard it and shook his head secretly, you don't know at all. Besides, Dug may be inferior to other maids, but she is not afraid of Nine Rong. If she can't even reach the threshold of a maid, what kind of threat is that? Dug took a breath and smiled, no matter what, there will be no war, which is great. At this moment, there was a sudden noise at the door. Everyone looked over. 2 figures were walking through the door. Tang Xiao walked in front, followed by Tang San, and a man with a bruised face was lying on Tang San's back. Everyone remembered that when Tang Xiao learned that Tang San was trapped in the Slaughter City, he took the initiative to look for Tang San. Did he come out so soon? Why did Tang San exude an evil aura? The reason why everyone looked at him strangely was because of Tang San. His face didn't change much, but his black hair and black eyes exuded a stern evil intent. This is not an ordinary boy, but more like an old demon in the world. Even Poison Douluo shook his head secretly when he saw him. This boy is even more weird than him. Liu Chang'an was stunned for a moment. He didn't pay much attention to Tang San, but how could he have such a crazy change after just experiencing the city of slaughter? In the anime, it's just that the killing intention is easy to get out of control. Could something have happened? Liu Chang'an restrained the desire to peek and shook his head slightly. Visitors are guests, and he really shouldn't have the delusion of snooping into other people's privacy. Boss, I smell the smell of rejection on Tang San. Liu came to Liu Chang'an and whispered. Liu Chang'an instantly understood the reason for Tang San's change. Rejection, what would be rejected? Tang San's fate was unfortunate. From a favored child of heaven, with unlimited luck, he fell to this lonely field now. No wonder he had a crazy feeling of destroying the world. Tang San's sinister eyes swept the whole audience. Except for when he saw Xiao Wu, he had a touch of warmth. In his eyes, everyone else was just a walking corpse. The suppressed darkness in his heart almost swallowed up the world. Yes, he hated it. That night, after talking to Xiao Wu, he was still caught by the pervert. There are no miracles in the world. Although he succeeded in killing the pervert the next day when he was exhausted, he also left indelible pain in his body and mind. He became like a bird, straight and straightforward. Moreover, this symptom is difficult to treat. It belongs to muscle necrosis, and the healing spirit master can't do anything about it. This humiliation exacerbated his madness. Fortunately, he was also able to become evil and degenerate into an evil spirit master. Why do they look at me like this? Tang Xiao thought secretly. The eyes of the crowd looking at him have many more incomprehensible emotions, such as contempt and ridicule. Even if the Aoshan sect is lonely, they have a few titled Luo to support it, and it is definitely the level of the top 3 sects. How dare others look down on it? Tang Xiao naturally didn't know that the Aoshan sect betrayed the Douluo Continent under the threat of enemies from other worlds, and now it is looked down upon by everyone, although those people are estimated to kneel faster. Master Tang, since we are at the tavern, let's separate now. I just want my teacher to regain consciousness. But I myself will not accept the favor of the tavern again. Tang San said lightly. He was proud in his heart. Since he had vowed not to accept the benefits of the tavern before, he would not go back on his word. This is the demeanor of a real man. Although he can't hold shit. Tang Xiao sighed and said, Xiao-san, you still refuse to forgive your uncle. Liu Chang'an, that bastard, has harmed you. Don't be stubborn anymore, turn back. Tang San no longer looked at him, but walked straight to the nearest maid, the water god. He came closer and said, Hello, I want to challenge the mortal wine. 30,000 gold soul coins, said the water god. Tang San was stunned. Chapter 266 Heavy Taste. 30,000 gold soul coins is never a small amount. Before joining the Clear Sky sect, it was an astronomical figure for Tang San. And now without the support of the Clear Sky sect, he can't even come up with this amount. Now it's awkward. He wants to challenge the mortal world wine to heal his teacher's injury, but he has no money to buy the number of times. Everyone looked at this scene with some sighs. It is expected that Tang San was full of vigor and energy not long ago. He was the person who challenged the mortal world wine the most times. It can be said that heroes emerge from youth. Even without the effect of the mortal world wine, his achievements are also excellent. In the future, he has the opportunity to surpass the Clear Sky Duo, and later he was even favored by the god of destruction, but all this was ruined by Liu Chang'an on his back. For his own selfishness, Liu Chang'an actually let Tang San ruin his own future, and now he can't even take out 30,000 gold soul coins. If Tang San was still in the Clear Sky sect, what would it be like? Xiao-san, I'll pay for this money for you. After all, I beat Liu Chang'an. Tang Xiao said. He took Tang San out to the slaughter city and found Liu Chang'an. He couldn't help but beat Liu Chang'an up. Liu Chang'an is still in a state of fainting. Tang San's face was gloomy and he nodded slightly. So Tang Xiao gave Tang San a crystal card. The water god waved his hand, and 3 bowls of earthly wine appeared in front of Tang San. Tang San poured it into his mouth without any hesitation. 10 seconds passed quickly, and Tang San's expression was calm, and he didn't show any drunkenness at all. This posture made everyone stunned. In their eyes, the earthly wine, which had a probability of less than 1 in 10,000, was so easily challenged and succeeded by Tang San. Comparing people, it's so annoying. If Tang San really changed his mind and used the earthly wine to make a profit for himself, he would definitely be able to achieve a very high achievement in a short time. But, if he did that, Tang San would not be Tang San. Liu Chang'an on his back quickly regained consciousness and opened his eyes. He turned his head, his face changed, and he said in a lost voice, Xiao-san. Xiao-san. Why are we in the tavern again? Tang San said, Teacher, in order to let you recover as soon as possible, I'm an unworthy disciple and can only challenge the worldly wine in the tavern. But don't worry, I just wish to let you recover to the state before being injured by Tang's own Zhu. Liu Chang'an was silent. In fact, he is not so resistant to borrowing the power of the tavern now, at least it should be for his own recovery, right? Because of paralysis, he has been lying in bed for a long time, and now his body is full of bed sores. It hurts so much. Compared with these pains, getting a slap in the face is not a difficult thing for him. But now that Tang San said so, he could only put on an expression as if he had eaten a fly, and said, "Okay, this will not happen again. Xiao San, your martial soul is now evil, which is a great opportunity for you to break the limit. You fart." Tang Xiao couldn't help but curse. "Xiao San, don't be confused anymore. Think about it, if this person can make a spirit master with a useless spirit stronger, then why would he waste so many years? He is just using you as an experiment. An experiment that he has never succeeded. You are following him, and you are letting a pearl fall into the dust." Tang Xiao shouted angrily. Tang San lowered his eyes and didn't listen to these words at all. The blood of the Tang family is reflected in him vividly, stubborn, paranoid, and stubborn. Tang San just said, "Teacher can't do it, but it doesn't mean I can't do it. Give me time, without the tavern, I can still break through the limit. Become a titled Luo, and even, become a god." Tang San turned around and left the tavern resolutely. His back looked lonely and upright. Everyone looked at Tang San leaving, all moved. This young man's character is unmatched by everyone present. If it were them, they would have put Yu Xiaogang aside long ago. Puff, just as they were moved, they suddenly found that some yellow fusses suddenly fell onto Tang San's trouser legs, and a foul smell began to spread. This scene was so shocking that no one reacted. Tang San actually defecated. And defecated in his pants. Why did he do this? Was he expressing his dissatisfaction with the tavern? Otherwise, why did he defecate in the tavern? Ermin was stunned and covered his nose. He was about to explode, but Xiao suddenly held his arm, with a look of heartache on her face, and shook her head slightly at him. "Ermin, don't embarrass him." Ermin opened his mouth and nodded in agreement. The stench naturally drifted to Liu Chang'an, whose sense of smell was similar to that of ordinary people. Fortunately, otherwise he would be disgusted to death. Who would have thought that Tang San, who seemed to be black, would actually defecate anywhere? Liu Chang'an quickly blocked his sense of smell and cleared all the smells in the tavern. Then he stared at Deming and Ermin, and said unhappily, "You clean it up." Deming and Ermin looked embarrassed and both bowed their heads in response. The two sturdy men showed strong disgust on their faces. But with Liu Chang'an's order, they could only pinch their noses to clean up. Everyone dispersed to both sides. Although Liu Chang'an had cleared the stench, the yellow puddle was dragged into a line by Tang San, which was disgusting to look at. Meng and Ermin took a mop and a shovel respectively, wishing they could shovel the ground. Several people from the Sunday and Moon Empire watched this scene. They didn't know Tang San, so they naturally didn't have so many emotions. They were just amazed at Tang San's behavior of shitting in public. A people on Douluo Continent so fierce. And that guy challenged the worldly wine, and he succeeded so easily. "Wait, I want to challenge the worldly wine too." Xuan Ziwin suddenly said. Zhi nodded, his face firm, as if he had just woken up, and said, "I want to challenge too. Then I want to challenge too. But I want to find that boss to challenge. Maybe the boss will see that I'm cute and reduce the difficulty for me." Thought about the good things and said with a smile. Seeing that his companions were all ready to challenge, Zimu was unwilling to fall behind, and nodded, "Then I will do the same." On the other side, after Tang San left the tavern, he felt a warm sensation on his calf, and then he realized that he had diarrhea again. This had become a normal thing, and he made a bag on his butt. But this time, he was carrying Yu Xiaogang on his back, and was squeezed, so it leaked. After discovering this fact, Tang San's face turned red, and he ran out of the tavern town in one breath. The wind blew on his face and dried his tears. Tang San came to a stream, put Yu Xiaogang aside, and jumped directly in. Puff splashed a splash of water. Yu Xiaogang looked at Tang San angrily pounding the water, and his heart was panicked. At this time, he actually knew that he had let Tang San down, and he had no confidence at all. If he really had a way to break the limit, he would not be a great spirit master all his life. I hope Xiao San can respect his teacher and never bully his teacher and destroy his ancestors. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novel, as there you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 267. Tang San is about to get up. In the stream, a yellow liquid was diluted and gradually dissipated. Puff. Tang San climbed out of the river, his body was wet, his clothes stuck to him. He sat aside with a cold face, lit the bonfire, and said, Teacher, what should we do next? As soon as the voice fell, Tang San's eyes suddenly rolled back and he fell backwards. Liu Chang'an was shocked and hurriedly said, Xiao San. What's wrong with you, Xiao San? Liu Chang'an called Tang San's name, but he couldn't hear Tang San's reply. Tang San was now in a coma, and his consciousness entered the sea of spirituality. In the sea of spirituality. This is a dark space similar to the universe, without any matter. And in this darkness, Tang San's consciousness is fighting with the soul body. If it is someone in the tavern, they will find that the one who is against Tang San is the alien strongman Zhu Zhuqing. Unlike Douluo Continent, there are souls in the Dupod world, and the Soul Palace is also a master against souls. After Zhu Zhuqing exploded, the soul escaped, and now he wants to take over the body. Tang San's body was the most attractive. After all, Tang San himself was a time traveler. Give me your body. Zhu Zhuqing laughed wildly. Tang San was mentally tough, his strength was far inferior to Zhu Zhuqing's, but his soul strength was not weak at all. Tang San's soul was extremely solid, and he was not at all inferior to Zhu Zhuqing when he collided with him. They collided for a quarter of an hour. Tang San still showed no signs of dissipating, but the invading Zhu Zhuqing was more like a rootless duckweed. His soul was slowly dissipating, and if the stalemate continued, he would be defeated sooner or later. The soul of Zhu Zhuqing was in a stalemate with Tang San. He suddenly stopped attacking and said, Boy. You are very good. Tell me, what is your name? Tang San. Okay. Neither of us can do anything to the other. This way, it will not be a good result for us. So, let's cooperate. Let me live in your spiritual sea, I will guide you and be your teacher. Teacher. I already have a teacher, your teacher. Is it that incompetent waste outside? Learning from him will only bury you, but I am different. I am not a strong man in your world. I have defeated the so-called God in your world. Only by learning from me can you become stronger faster. Tang San was silent. If someone dared to insult Liu Chang'an like this before, he would definitely fight. But now, okay. I promise you. But how can you guarantee that you won't suddenly attack me? Tang San asked doubtfully. Listen to me, we can swear. And you, I can see that you were a good child who respects teachers and respects the way of life. I treat you with sincerity, and you will definitely not, Zhu Zhuqing said with a smile. Tang San hesitated for a moment. I am willing to swear a poisonous oath. If I break it, I will die without a burial place. Tang San swore immediately. He was willing to learn from the strong man who defeated the gods. Soon, Tang San regained consciousness. When he opened his eyes, he saw a rough and ugly face, enlarged in front of him. And his mouth, there was a foul smell, sucking out something. Liu Chang'an was actually giving Tang San artificial respiration. Tang San quickly pushed Liu Chang'an away and lay on the river bank to vomit. The bad feeling returned, he relived the feeling of that night, and murderous intent burst out in his heart. Xiao San, you're alive, Liu Chang'an said in surprise. Tang San turned his head and looked at Liu Chang'an who was lying on the ground, trying to look at him. Teacher, can you move? Tang San asked doubtfully. Liu Chang'an smiled and said, I wanted to save you so much that a burst of power suddenly burst out of my body. That's why I was able to do it. Xiao San, I suddenly thought that in order to teach you better, maybe I can use the tavern appropriately, teacher. If you can make a breakthrough now, it won't be long before you can fully recover in the future. You don't need the power of the tavern, and you can recover by yourself in the future. Tang San said excitedly. Liu Chang'an was embarrassed. He was willing to accept the power of the tavern now, or rather, he didn't mind getting the benefits of the tavern at the beginning. He just didn't want Tang San to get involved in the tavern, not himself. Now he is riding a tiger and it's hard to get off. At the same time, in the tavern, the people at the Sunday and Moon Empire wanted to challenge. When everyone saw their motives, they all showed a playful look on their faces. Those who were not of my race must have different hearts. Although the languages of both sides are surprisingly the same, they are people from another continent after all, and they are still happy to see each other suffer. Do you really think that the worldly wine is easy to challenge? Tang San's challenge was easy to succeed, so although they were jealous, they could only admit it and sigh at his young genius. But what is the reason for the 4 people at the Sunday and Moon Empire? Everyone was waiting to see the joke. Hello, I want to challenge the earthly wine. Qian Renxue said to Zhu Zhuqing next to him. Zhu Zhuqing nodded slightly, raised her hand, and 3 bowls of earthly wine appeared in front of Qian Renxue. My wish is very simple, that is, I can see the higher level of soul guide route. Qian Renxue said with a pious look, and then drank all 3 bowls of earthly wine. Within 10 seconds, Qian Renxue closed his eyes, his expression was dazed, and he might get drunk at any time. But he held on in the end, holding his forehead, and did not get drunk. Counted down for him, and seeing that Qian Renxue did not faint, she said excitedly, "Success. Teacher Qian succeeded. Teacher Qian will definitely be able to become a 9th level soul guide in a short time, or even a 10th level soul guide." Qian Renxue had a faint smile on his face and said, "It's amazing. And I saw many unexpected scenes, as if I had really experienced those years." Everyone listened with envy in their eyes. He was able to succeed in the first challenge. He beat them directly. Does this kid from the Sun Moon Empire have any tricks? Otherwise how could he succeed? Let me think again, are these people from the Sun Moon Empire really coming here with good intentions? It has nothing to do with this. If they really dare to invade, then the gods on our side are not vegetarians. When a circle of people looked at Qian Renxue again, their eyes became solemn. Muttered softly, "Their sight is annoying. Watch me, I'll do the second experiment." Orange patted the back of K's hand and smiled slightly, and transmitted the voice. Orange also said to Zhu Zhuqing, "This girl, I also want to challenge the worldly wine." Zhu Zhuqing nodded gently, "It would be great if the challenge was successful. But if you fail, you will be punished, you have to pay attention." "I know. I want to challenge." Juicy nodded vigorously. Juicy secretly said, "My wish is to bring my parents back to life. When the princes rebelled, they died in the imperial capital, very miserably. And she was adopted by the Prince Xiao Tavern. If they could be resurrected, Juicy would have so much to say." Chapter 268. The Challenge of the Sunday and Moon People. Seeing that Juicy was going to challenge and her wish was to revive her parents, she now had an idea. Her long-cherished wish was to revive her mother, but she could never do it. In the end, it was only with Bibi Dong that she had hope of revival. Now seeing the woman who had the same idea as her, she hurriedly said, "Sister, wait a minute. The wish of revival is very difficult. It is easy to fail. And the punishment for failure." She now stepped forward to dissuade the other party. Juicy just took the wine bowl and heard Xiao talking. Hearing this, she smiled slightly and said, "I think my will can revive my parents." She now shook her head and said, "I know you are very confident. I was like this before, but the difficulty of the challenge is really not as simple as you think. At least, you should think about it first." Juicy glanced at Xiao and said seriously, "It may fail. But I must challenge. Even if I fail, it is fate. No matter what the result is, I can accept it." She now sighed and stopped persuading. Keep was slightly startled when she heard this. She pulled Juicy's arm and whispered, "Juicy, you see someone has said it. Why don't we take it slow first? Don't let your impulse lead to severe punishment. Just now, the people at the Sun Moon Empire have learned about some of the punishments. There are many that they're afraid of. No need to persuade them anymore." Juicy shook his head and drank a bowl directly, followed by the second bowl. Keep sighed when she saw this. The others also shook their heads, helpless. Although Qian Renxue of the Sun Moon Empire succeeded in that challenge, which amazed them, the probability of success in the challenge is too low. Not everyone can succeed in the challenge. This little girl Juicy actually wants to resurrect her parents. The difficulty is considered medium, and few people have succeeded. After the death of parents, as time goes by, the desire for resurrection will become weaker and weaker. Teacher, can this earthly wine really fulfill wishes? Then have you fulfilled your wish? Keep couldn't persuade Juicy, so she asked Qian Renxue next to her. Qian Renxue stared at Juicy and said, "It's done. It's amazing, but the challenge is really hard to complete. If you don't have a strong will, I don't recommend you to challenge it." Juicy succeeded, so I will challenge it. Dick nodded. At this time, 10 seconds passed. Everyone showed surprised expressions on their faces. Because Juicy was not drunk yet. 10 seconds passed, golden light appeared on both sides of her body, condensing into a human form. 2 ordinary-looking men and women appeared. They were wearing simple clothes. They opened their eyes almost at the same time, looking around in confusion. Juicy's face immediately showed surprise, and bean-sized tears rolled down. She bit her lips and tried not to cry out loud. Juicy threw herself into the woman's arms. "Mom, Juicy, is it my Juicy? You've grown so big." The middle-aged woman hugged Juicy, and before she could figure out the situation, she showed a loving look on her face. The middle-aged man also came over and said in surprise, "We're resurrected." "Josie, did you do it?" "Yes, Dad." Josie was almost crying. The family of three hugged and cried. Everyone was very moved. Xiao covered her chest. Was her will to revive her mother not strong enough? Her longing for her mother was not as strong as this girl's. Xiao's eyes were red, and she felt sour in her heart. Her mouth curled up, and she was happy for her sisters. Xuan Ziwen nodded slightly, the same. "Mr. Xuan, you succeeded in that challenge. You can choose to sell the fine wine publicly, right? Or choose now?" Someone asked with a smile. Xuan Ziwen shook his head and said nothing. He already knew the preciousness of selling fine wine. It must be until more people from the Sunday and Moon Empire come before making a choice. He patted Zimu and said, "Hey, come too." Zimu shook his head and said, "I don't have any strong wishes, so I won't come, otherwise I will definitely fail." Coward. He rolled his eyes at him. He ran to Liu Chang'an in small steps, pouting and acting cute. "Boss, if I challenge you, can you lower the difficulty for me?" Keek asked in a sweet voice. "Keek, don't be rude to the boss." Xuan Ziwen said hurriedly. Keek turned around and made a face at him. Liu Chang'an shook his head slightly and said, "It won't be lowered. If you are willing to make the challenge process public, the punishment can be lowered." "Is that so?" Keek pouted her lips. Her face was cute and she made a wronged expression, which really aroused the love and pity of many people. Of course, more people were actually watching the joke. Because there were many women who had similar ideas to Keek in the past, and some were even more beautiful than Keek. But without exception, they did not get the boss's preferential treatment. How could Keek be special? Then I want to challenge too. I want to stay young forever and become the most beautiful woman. Keek said loudly, and threw a wink at Liu Chang'an. Liu Chang'an's face did not show any emotion. He showed Keek 3 bowls of earthly wine. Keek picked up a bowl, put it to her mouth, and sipped it gently. 3 bowls of wine, which others could finish in a few seconds, she drank for more than a minute. Everyone was anxious. This guy will definitely fail in the challenge. That's right. Do you think that digesting slowly can reduce the difficulty? We have tried this method a long time ago, and it doesn't work. This little girl is ridiculous. You only see these superficial things, but I am worried that the Sun Moon Empire has bad intentions. Their continent borders us. Will they have any ill will towards us? So what? Are we missing something? ... While a group of people were whispering, K fell down. It only lasted for 6 seconds before she passed out. Josie hurriedly stepped forward to pick up and said helplessly, "You are still trying to persuade me, but in the end you overestimated your own abilities. Zimu, do you still want a challenge?" Xuan Ziwen looked at Zimu. Zimu shook his head. Xuan Ziwen nodded slightly and said, "Then let's wait for it to wake up, and then leave." Several people from the Sun Moon Empire went upstairs. Many people were staring at them. They had all kinds of concerns about the Sun Moon Empire, which they had never come into contact with. And at the same time, in the Douluo Continent, in the land of the Snape tribe, Hunmi Beshan led a group of Soul Palace masters and descended here. They controlled this place, and in the center, a pair of bronze fragments were piled up. Hunmi Beshan said, "The power of this bronze door is very strong, we can't detect it. Maybe it was made by a being higher than our Douluo Continent. Judging from the information transmitted by the Blood River, maybe it was the Tavern." Now, Hunmi Beshan muttered to himself. At this time, a Soul Palace Master suddenly said, "Palace Master, speaking of which, I heard a piece of news that a black dragon has appeared nearby recently, and its strength is very strong." Chapter 269 Branch. Black Dragon. Hunmi Beshan frowned slightly. "Yes, I have sensed the breath of that guy from afar. He is very strong. At least I am not his opponent, far from it. Moreover, his power is very strange and does not seem to belong to the Douluo system." The Soul Palace strongman explained. The other Soul Palace members showed interest when they heard it. "If we hunt this guy, his soul should be very strong, right? The strongest dragon in our Douluo continent should be the Xiao ancient dragon. Can that black dragon be compared with those guys? Did I sense it wrongly? Is it possible that there is some connection with the other world? The other world is a somewhat uncertain threat. Only the Tavern, according to the information sent back by Zhu Zhuqing, it may be the work of that Tavern. ... Everyone in the Soul Palace talked about it. Suddenly, a shadow was cast in the sky, and a strong breath flashed through the air. A Soul Palace expert laughed and said, "What you said is true. that Black Dragon actually came to the Taga Desert. If he is from the tavern in the other world, he must have the ability to go to that world. Go! Hunmi Beshan shouted. Immediately, all the Soul Palace experts turned into a black light and soared into the sky. In the sky, a huge black dragon hundreds of meters long was soaring. Suddenly, several black lights blocked his way. One of the black lights burst out a ball of black gas, condensed into a high-burning beam, and the surrounding space was stained with black, like a black sun, swiftly shooting towards the black dragon, and the space collapsed piece by piece. Boom! Daitian was not simple either. His golden eyes converged and he opened his mouth to spit out a black dragon breath. The two black lights collided and eventually annihilated each other. Who are you? How dare you attack me? Daitian asked coldly. He was not afraid of these Dozun and Doshan. Although the first-level gods who just became gods in Douluo Continent are equivalent to Dozone level, if it is an old-fashioned god, such as the god of fire, the flames can burn half of the continent, and the Soul Clan in Diki Continent can only achieve this effect by relying on a large formation. Emperor Tian, who has recovered his peak strength, is no worse than the god of fire, so his strength is also between Do Dai. Facing the group of strong men in the Soul Palace, he is not afraid at all. Are you from the Douluo Continent Tavern? Hunmi Beshan asked loudly, with a flash of surprise in his eyes. Although the previous attack was a test, ordinary 2-star Doshan couldn't take it, but this black dragon took it easily. He didn't even use his full strength. This is going to be difficult. Who do you think you are? How dare you question me? Since you have attacked me, you'll die. Emperor Tian snorted coldly, and his huge body disappeared in an instant, leaving only a human figure in the air. The fierceness of the human-shaped Emperor Tian did not diminish at all. He raised his hand and clawed, and a crack suddenly appeared in front of him. The next second, a huge dragon claw appeared above the Soul Hall. The dragon claw flashed, and a strong aura filled the air. Soul Hall masters such as Hunmi Beshan were horrified, and hurriedly used their own skills to burst out black energy to block the arrival of the dragon god claw. Boom! A muffled sound. The dragon god claw still fell, and a ball of blood and energy burst out from the position of the Soul Hall. All the Soul Hall people fell from the air. However, some were intact, while others became broken limbs and debris. A hint of coldness flashed in Daitian's eyes, and he opened his mouth and spit out another breath of dragon breath. The scorching dragon breath instantly burned all the blood and energy. I don't know what you are talking about, but this place is indeed much better than Douluo Continent. It is vast and rich in resources, and its strength is also very strong. If it fights with Douluo Continent, the God Realm will not stop, and Douluo Continent will definitely lose. It's time to ask the boss where to build a branch. Daitian muttered to himself. He had already circled the Diki Continent. The location inspection is over. And at the same time, in the tavern, because the two people from the Sunday and Moon group succeeded in that challenge, some people's enthusiasm was ignited, and there was a wave of challenges to the worldly wine. Liu Chang'an didn't pay much attention to it. He didn't pay much attention to the rewards during the challenges during this period. But there is no doubt that he has made a lot of money now. His own strength has reached the level of the god of creation. Of course, this is limited to the Blue World view. As long as he has a thought, the planets in the Blue World can be destroyed in an instant. This is how powerful he is. And the other rewards are even more numerous. He can create a first-level god at any time. This is not counting the power of the worldly wine in the tavern. Liu Chang'an looked at their challenge with a smile, and at the same time heard the inquiry from Daitian. Boss, the above is the location division of Diki Continent. Zhongzhou is the most central, with many connections. Are we going to build a tavern branch here? Liu Chang'an pondered for a moment and said, no, we won't build it there. Instead, we will build it in the territory of Jiama Empire, near the Warcraft Mountains. You go find a location, I will. Well, this time, we will not build a branch, but directly cross the two realms. Yes, boss. Daitian responded respectfully. Liu Chang'an regained consciousness and looked at the door. At this time, Bibi Dong and others came back. As soon as Bibi Dong came back, her eyes fell on Liu Chang'an. Pa. There was warm applause in the hall. Everyone applauded and cheered for Bibi Dong and the other four. Because of the efforts of Bibi Dong and others, Douluo Continent was free from danger. Chang'an. How did I perform? Bibi Dong walked quickly to Liu Chang'an's figure and asked with a smile. Liu Chang'an shook his head slightly and said, I didn't notice. Bibi Dong immediately looked at Liu Chang'an with resentment, and asked with a sour tone, "Has your attention been attracted by the great beauty Queen Medusa? Then you'll be satisfied. She must have you in her heart. Just wave your hand and she will probably climb into your bed. You can also buy one get one free, with a little fairy." Liu Chang'an's face darkened and he raised his hand to cover Bibi Dong's mouth. Suddenly, he felt wet in the palm of his hand. Liu Chang'an's face darkened even more. "How dare you tease me at this time?" Liu Chang'an took his hand away and wiped it directly on Bibi Dong's collar. Bibi Dong's beautiful eyes widened, looking at Liu Chang'an in disbelief. She was banned. What she wanted to say was, "Do you dislike my saliva so much?" Liu Chang'an ignored her and looked at the door. At this time, another person came in at the door. He was a white-haired man wearing glasses, and he was not from Douluo Continent. All the titled Douluos in the tavern looked over. Because the person who came was an unfamiliar titled Douluo, that was for sure, a strong man from the Sun Moon Empire. As soon as Zhu Zhuqing entered the tavern, he was stared at by dozens of people, but there was no surprise on his face. He bowed slightly to Liu Chang'an in the distance and said, "I'm Zhu Zhuqing, the leader of the Minda Hall of the Sun Moon Empire. I greet the boss." Chapter 270 Mirror Red Dust. Zhu Zhuqing came in and quickly attracted everyone's attention. For the people of Douluo Continent, the strong from other worlds are external threats, while the Sun Moon Empire is an internal threat. For the strong from other worlds, they can still count on the boss to take charge, but for the people of the same week, they can only rely on themselves. The stronger the people of the Sun Moon Empire, the less secure they feel. If Zhu Zhuqing came in without courtesy and was rude to Liu Chang'an, then they could still rest assured, at least they had information gaps. But now Zhu Zhuqing looked so polite, they showed vigilance instead. "We are not afraid of strong people, but we are afraid of smart people. No need to be polite. Everyone who comes is a guest, and we treat them equally in the tavern." Liu Chang'an nodded slightly, raised his hand to help, and a force acted on Zhu Zhuqing, helping him up. Zhu Zhuqing showed admiration on his face, and said sincerely, "You are the guest who came to the tavern, and you're the boss, but at the same time you are also that benefactor of all of us in the Sun Moon Empire. We have been able to develop for 10,000 years, all thanks to you and Lord Michael. I came here to say hello to you, just to express our gratitude. In fact, in these 10,000 years, the place we most want to come to is the tavern, and the people we most want to see are you and Lord Michael. Now that we can see each other, it is really a great honor, and I am grateful that I finally have the opportunity to repay you." Zhu Zhuqing's expression was sincere, and no one could see the slightest falsehood. Everyone in the tavern had different expressions, and they all sighed in their hearts that this strong man from the Sun Moon Empire was really shameless. But it is precisely this kind of people who can climb up the ladder the most. If the Sun Moon Empire is full of such people, and they are ambitious, then it will definitely be a difficult opponent. Liu Chang'an shook his head and ignored him. Zhu Zhuqing did not remain silent, but stepped forward and continued, "I want to show you the achievements of our development over the past 10,000 years, thanks to the power of the tavern. I hope you can accept it. I can show you, but I won't accept the gift," Liu Chang'an said lightly. Hearing this, Zhu Zhuqing did not insist and said, "Boss, please look at this first soul guide." As he spoke, Zhu Zhuqing took out a silver inner armor, which was engraved with many complex patterns, all of which were magic arrays, but the soul masters of Douluo Continent could not understand the mystery at all. Zhu Zhuqing explained, "Wearing this inner armor can offset one attack of the titled Douluo level every day. This is the culmination of our craftsmanship. Soul guides with stronger defensive effects than it are not as light as it. And those that are as comfortable as it are far less defensive than it." Zhu Zhuqing presented it to Liu Chang'an. Liu Chang'an took it in his hand and weighed it. The weight was indeed very light. Although it exceeded normal clothes, the weight of 3 or 4 pounds was nothing to a soul master. This soul guide shows that the level of soul guides in the Sun Moon Empire has far surpassed that of Douluo Continent. In other words, Douluo Continent has not even started yet. This is indeed the case. The soul masters in the tavern were full of disbelief. Their eyes were focused on the inner armor in Liu Chang'an's hand, which was completely incomprehensible. How could such a thin inner armor resist the attack of a titled Douluo? Is he bragging? Or has he not seen the true strength of a titled Douluo? Zhu Zhuqing glanced around from the corner of his eyes. Judging from the reactions of these people, Douluo Continent actually has no understanding of soul guides at all. If the influence of the Tavern is not counted, the invasion of Douluo Continent by the Sun Moon Empire is definitely a dimensionality reduction attack. The second soul guide is the pinnacle of our offensive weapon. Jin Hongchen chuckled, and a flash of light flashed in his hand. A turret appeared on the ground. The cylindrical barrel was erected at an angle, and the square base was also covered with array texts. The muzzle was facing backwards, aiming at the other people in the tavern. There were also powerful soul masters among these people. They were all frightened when they were pointed at by the barrel. An inexplicable sense of threat arose from the bottom of his heart. Boss, this is the pinnacle of fixed-type soul guides. This shell is comparable to a blow from a powerful attack soul guide. But because of its great power, only 3 shots can be fired a day. Each shot must be at least 4 hours apart to cool down. The third soul guide is a holy sword of light. It was Emperor Yenru, His Majesty, who successfully challenged the mortal wine and brought us a 10,000-year development opportunity. In gratitude for the kindness of Lord Michael, he ordered us to complete this soul guide for generations. Jin Hongchen had a silver arrow sword in his hand. The sword was more than 4 feet long, with complicated patterns on it. It was also a series of magic arrays connected to each other, emitting a silver light that was frightening. Everyone took a breath of cold air again, and felt that it was powerful. Although they didn't understand the tricks, the breathtaking power made everyone dare not underestimate it. It was really worrying to be an enemy of such an unknown empire. I wonder if Lord Michael can accept it. Jin Hongchen held the sword in both hands and bent over to hand it to Liu Chang'an. Liu Chang'an raised his eyebrows slightly. This soul guide holy sword is really suitable for Michael, but the level is too low, it cannot reach the god level, and it is just a toy for Michael. Okay, I agreed on his behalf. Michael owes you a favor. Liu Chang'an nodded slightly, stretched out his hand, and the holy sword flew into his hand. Liu Chang'an stretched out his hand again, and the lines on the sword body shone, and the sacred aura emitted became more intense. At the same time, the sword body was compressed, more like an ordinary sword blade that was beaten. But the sharpness it exuded was far better than before. Everyone's eyes were already stinging just by looking at it. But soon, this sharpness was restrained. It looked like an ordinary silver longsword. Seeing this, everyone did not dare to underestimate it at all. Now they can only say that they can't see through it at all. The quality of the longsword has far exceeded their imagination. The boss's power is mysterious and unpredictable. Jin Hongchen's eyes flashed with shock. But then, a look of joy appeared on his face. In any case, he gave a gift. Although he failed to establish a relationship with the boss, Michael owed him a favor, which was enough for them to be happy. Liu Chang'an called Michael over and gave him the holy sword. Michael said respectfully, "Thank you, boss." Then, Michael turned around and nodded to Jin Hongchen, "I can help you once." Jin Hongchen bowed hurriedly to thank him. Everyone's eyes were sour. The battle angel Michael was a real first-level god. Letting him take action once, its preciousness was far more precious than the 99-level titled Luo. Jin Hongchen turned around and faced everyone, especially looking at the Spirit Hall, Dao of the Sun and Moon Empire and Qian Renxue representing the Heaven Dou Empire, and said, "Our Sun and Moon Empire is now bordering the Douluo Continent. But we are willing to live in peace and use competitive exchanges instead of force. I hope we can live in peace." Chapter 271 Competition. What do you mean? Asked Prince Dao of Xingluo Empire. Jin Hongchen smiled slightly and said, "I think everyone in Douluo Continent should not want a war to break out, right? After all, this is what the boss doesn't want to see. At least we in the Sun Moon Empire hope not to go against the boss's will. You need to tell me that," Prince Dao said coldly. Looking at Jin Hongchen's smiling face, Prince Dao felt a little pressure in his heart. Before this, Xingluo Empire was the one who could lick the tavern owner the most. Now that the Sun Moon Empire has appeared, he feels a pressure. This one, I'm afraid he is a strong rival. Jin Hongchen said, as the name suggests. I heard that you have a Soul Master competition in Douluo Continent, which allows young Soul Masters from various academies to compete. So, how about letting us join? We can show the strength of a country through this. Or hold a martial arts show, choose a small force to fight against each other, and show the strength of each army. The winner can get some prizes, such as gold and silver, or food and land. Jin Hongchen smiled at Dao and others. How dare you? Do you think you can beat us? Then do as you say. Prince Dao sneered. We also want to see the younger generation of the Sun Moon Empire. What is the difference between our generation? Qian Renxue smiled slightly, with an interested expression on her face. The Sun Moon Empire has left behind that Douluo Continent in terms of soul guides, but they are not afraid of cultivating soul masters. In this case, it would be the best. For safety reasons, we can compete on the ring in the tavern. How about a test first? Let's get to know each other preliminarily. Jin Hongchen said with a smile. Before coming to the tavern, he had already learned about the level of the Douluo Continent soul masters. In reality, they are not even as good as the Sun Moon Empire. In the previous Soul Master competitions, the Soul Sect was already the highest level among the participants. However, under the age of 25, the Soul Masters of the Sun Moon Empire are even at the Soul Empire level. What can the Douluo Continent use to compare with them? The gap of 10,000 years is not just talk. Well, why not? We are also curious about what is so magical about the Soul Masters of the Sun Moon Empire. Can they beat our golden generation? Qian Renxue continued to smile, looking at Bibi Dong and Elena, with a flash of annoyance in her eyes. She wanted to plot against Elena, but ended up getting herself involved. The feud started from that time. Elena pursed her lips and smiled, saying, "I really want to see it." Bibi Dong maintained a cold expression, mainly because she was punished by Liu Chang'an and now she can't speak. "Boss, I wonder if we can hold this Soul Master duel in the tavern?" Jin Hongchen bowed slightly to Liu Chang'an again and said respectfully. Liu Chang'an smiled and said, "Of course. In this case, I will give some small rewards to the winner." Liu Chang'an acted very generous. He actually liked the excitement. This kind of background duel involving two continents will definitely attract the attention of many people, and then it can promote the business of Qian wine. Although he is invincible now, how can he dislike the small gifts? "Thank you for your generosity, boss," Jin Hongchen said in surprise. "Thank you, boss." Prince Diao and Qian Renxue also bowed to thank him at the same time. Glancing at Jin Hongchen, both of them had an idea in their hearts. A flatterer. Shen Hai looked at Jin Hongchen with admiration in his eyes. This person has great potential. Maybe he can be recruited into the sect. "You're welcome." Liu Chang'an shook his head. After a pause, Liu Chang'an smiled and said, "Without further delay, you discuss the rules and regulations, and I will open a space tunnel for you, so that you can rush directly to the tavern from all over the place." "That's great. We will not let the boss down. Everyone, let's start the discussion," Jin Hongchen said immediately. "You don't have to say it. We also know how to respond to the boss's expectations." Prince Diao said in a deep voice. "This guy is really a tough opponent. Let's decide quickly." Qian Renxue shook her head and said simply. So the three groups immediately began to discuss, and everyone in the tavern did not speak, watching them make a decision quietly. Because of Liu Chang'an's expectations, they were unwilling to waste time and quickly finalized a charter. This time, they no longer required Soul Master academies across the continent, but recommended players. The three empires plus the Wuhan Hall each selected the strongest team of young people to compete. After finalizing it, Jin Hongchen told Liu Chang'an where he was going, entered the time-space tunnel and disappeared. The representatives of the three forces of Qian Renxue looked at each other and also entered the time-space tunnel. Time was running out, and they had to make arrangements immediately. Jin Hongchen came to them in the palace of the Sunday and Moon Empire and appeared directly in front of the Sunday and Moon Emperor. The Sunday and Moon Emperor was shocked. He was in court, and Jin Hongchen suddenly appeared in front of the civil and military officials. "Jin Hongchen, what are you doing here without notification?" a minister asked. Jin Hongchen bowed slightly and said to the Sunday and Moon Emperor, "Your Majesty's atonement is like this." Jin Hongchen quickly explained the cause and effect. After hearing the whole process, the civil and military officials of the Sunday and Moon Empire were silent. "I didn't expect the tavern to be so magical. Even that Lord Michael is not the tavern owner. Master Jin, you did a good job. We really shouldn't start a war right away." The Sun Moon Emperor nodded slightly and praised Jin Hongchen. Jin Hongchen smiled lightly. "The most urgent task is to lead the team to win a beautiful victory. I have learned that the three best young people in Douluo Continent are actually at the Soul King level." The Sun Moon Emperor and the ministers all laughed when they heard this. Soul Kings in their early 20s are indeed powerful, but there are more than 3 of their students. If nothing unexpected happens, they will definitely win. If we establish a good relationship with the tavern owner, even if we only need to ensure that the tavern owner will not take action when we invade Douluo Continent, that will be enough. The ministers of the Sun Moon Empire are ambitious. This is normal. They have accelerated their development for 10,000 years and left Douluo Continent behind with their hard power. Isn't it for the purpose of not being bullied and then bullying foreign countries? This should be more cautious. Jin Hongchen smiled. At the same time, Tang San was rushing to the tavern. Liu Chang'an on his back was confused and asked, Xiao San, why do we have to go to the tavern? We can't borrow their power. Although he said so, Liu Chang'an was excited. Did Tang San want to use the wine in the tavern to heal himself? Then he would not resist. He has understood that face is not as important as a healthy body. Tang San shook his head and said, Teacher, we are going there this time not for me, but for my other teacher. Chapter 272. Before the game. Boss, does the tavern want to send out a team? Dai Shishi winked at Liu Chang'an and asked cutely. Liu Chang'an shook his head and said, the tavern will not participate. What a joke. If the tavern participated, whether it could get first place would depend on whether it wanted to win. If he wanted to win, even if there were 7 children on the field, he could make them into god-level strongmen. What fun would that be? Dai Shishi sighed in disappointment. If the tavern did not participate, then the first place would have to be fought hard. This competition was actually to promote national strength and show the strength of the 2 continents. In terms of Soul Master training, the Xingluo Empire is likely to be at the bottom. Even without the emergence of the tavern, the Xingluo Empire did not pay much attention to the strength of Soul Masters, which can be seen from the fact that the top 3 sects are all in the Qian Dou Empire. Dai Shishi looked at Zhu Zhuqing and her sister again, her big eyes flickering, and she said pitifully, Sister Yun, you and King Mei should be willing to fight for Xingluo, right? If you don't come, then our Xingluo will probably be at the bottom. Dai Shishi held Zhu Zhuqing's arm and looked at her eagerly. Zhu Zhuqing smiled slightly. She was able to be disengaged by the Xingluo royal family because she promised the other party that she would carry Dai Shishi into the maids. Now that it has not been successful, she is also reluctant, so she said, Okay, but I have to ask Chang'an for his opinion. I won't restrict you. If you want to participate, then participate. Liu Chang'an said casually. Chang'an, you are so good to me. Zhu Zhuqing was so moved that she immediately ran over to kiss Liu Chang'an, but after running a few steps, she was stopped by a transparent energy. She could only pout and look at Liu Chang'an with resentment. They are already an old couple, why can't they be intimate in public? Zhu Zhuqing looked at Zhu Zhuqing who was selling wine, and said with a smile, Good sister, we can fight side by side this time. Fate is so wonderful. We don't have to kill each other, but we fight side by side. Zhu Zhuqing didn't even turn her head and said coldly, It's because of the tavern and the boss. Looking at Zhu Zhuqing's serious look, Zhu Zhuqing curled her lips and muttered, Why are you pretending? We're sisters. What kind of you have I not seen? Her words caused a group of people around to prick up their ears. They were all curious about what kind of contrasting beauty Zhu Zhuqing, an iceberg beauty, would have in private. Dai Shishi hugged Zhu Zhuqing's arm, put his ear close to her ear, and whispered, Sister Yun, tell me, what is Sister Zhuqing like in private? Zhu Zhuqing smiled and glanced at Zhu Zhuqing's back. I'll tell you. A chill instantly enveloped her. Zhu Zhuqing stared at the 2 women with a sullen face. Zhu Zhuqing shrugged and said helplessly, See, they don't let me say it, so I can't do anything about it. Dai Shishi sighed in disappointment, looking at Zhu Zhuqing's overly plump and sexy body. She was really curious about how much obscene potential she would have in bed. Everyone sighed in their hearts, but they didn't dare to show it. They didn't even have the courage to fantasize in their hearts. In the tavern, they were all very careful. Time soon came to the evening, when the tavern was about to close. The 3 teams of Douluo Continent were ready and came to the tavern one after another. The first to arrive was naturally the Wuhan Hall team, which had the same candidates as in the Inama, but their strength had improved. 1 Soul Emperor, 2 Soul Kings, and the remaining 4 were Soul Sects who were very close to Soul Kings. The overall strength could beat the performance in the Inama. Especially the current Elena, with her charming smile and charisma, no one could resist her charm. Elena alone was enough to deal with the original team. Seeing them appear, everyone present breathed a sigh of relief. If nothing unexpected happens, the Spirit Hall team will definitely be the first. Yes, just say Elena and Yan, they swept the whole place. How can the Sun Moon Empire's Soul Masters who rely on external forces compare with them? Their soul guides are also limited. They can only use what they created. I don't believe that a Soul Master can create such a powerful soul guide. In fact, I think the team of the Qian Dou Empire may be stronger. After all, theirs is not simple. According to what you said, the Xingluo Empire is not backed either, and there are two Miss Zhu to help. ... As they were talking, people from the Tiando Empire and the Xingluo Empire appeared one after another. The team of the Tiando Empire is Yu Tinheng and Duyan from Yuan Huangdo, and 9 Rongrong from Kaibao Luli sect. The rest are the best people from the 4 elemental academies. Although there is no Soul King, they are equally powerful. Duyan is a barmaid. Fine wine is not a problem for her at all. Now her soul power has reached level 49, and her physical fitness has surpassed that of a Soul Emperor. There is no doubt that her fighting power can surpass that of ordinary Soul Kings. Xue Binja has been blessed by the god of destruction and is now more powerful than Duyan. Yu Tinheng is their captain, and he looks a little nervous. Can I really do it? If I really take this team to the Soul Master competition, I'm even confident that I can win. Qian Renxue smiled slightly and said to the 7 people, "Don't be nervous, winning or losing doesn't matter, as long as you can show your strength. Of course, winning is the best, at least you can get the boss's reward." Qian Renxue's attitude is gentle, and she has always shown her true face. Yu Tinheng and others looked at this holy and beautiful woman, and their hearts were relieved, and then they became firm again. They must win. Next, the Xingluo Empire's team also gathered. They are indeed the weakest group. Except for Davis, the other original members are all mediocre and not outstanding. And their strongest point is only the Zhu sisters. The teams of the 3 forces stood in a row and waited in the open space in front of the counter. Do you think that if the Sun Moon Empire saw the young generation of Soul Masters from our duo, would they surrender without a fight? I don't think so. After all, our lineup is too strong. How lonely it is to be invincible. ... Just as they were talking, there was finally movement in the space-time tunnel of the Sun Moon Continent. Jin Hongchen walked out first, followed by 7 young men, all wearing uniforms that symbolized the Sun Moon Empire. They were full of energy, and most importantly, they exuded their soul power without any concealment. Everyone present could sense their soul power. At this moment, everyone was dumbfounded. Because the Sun Moon Empire, which they looked down upon, was a little too strong. The young man in the lead was actually a Soul Emperor. And the other young men following behind were actually Soul Kings. The most terrifying thing was that the last 2 people were obviously shorter than the ones in front, and they were probably no more than 15 years old. But they were both Soul Kings. Chapter 273 Mental Breakdown. As soon as the Sun Moon Empire team appeared, the whole place fell silent. No matter how much they had overestimated the Sun Moon Continent before, now that they saw the real people, they realized that they had underestimated it. The gap of 10,000 years made the Sun Moon Continent, which was not good at Soul Master training, also surpass the Douluo Continent by a large margin. Who would dare to believe that there was a Soul King under the age of 15? The gap between them and the strongest genius of the Douluo Continent was at least 5 years. The Sun Moon Empire team enjoyed the complicated and indescribable gazes of the crowd, and they raised their heads one by one, revealing a proud look. Meng Hongchen ran to the front quickly and hugged his grandfather Jin Hongchen. "Grandpa, is this the tavern? It looks so big," Meng Hongchen whispered. "Yes. If you win, the boss will give you a gift. So, you must work hard, Meng." Jin Hongchen rubbed his granddaughter's head and said gently. Xiao Hongchen interrupted with contempt. "They are antiques from 10,000 years ago. It's too easy to beat them." Xiao Hongchen's contemptuous attitude angered everyone present. "It's just because of 10,000 years of development. If we also develop for 10,000 years, we will definitely be stronger than you. What are you so arrogant about now? Isn't it because of the wish of the worldly wine? Yes, arrogant people will suffer disasters. Do you think you will win? What a joke. Do you think we will lose? Many of our geniuses have also successfully challenged the worldly wine." ... A group of people looked at Xiao Hongchen with dissatisfaction. Xiao Hongchen yawned, looking indifferent. It seemed that those who shouted at him were just chickens and pottery dogs. At this time, Xuan Ziwin went downstairs and came to Jin Hongchen, reporting the challenge information of the worldly wine in the tavern. Jin Hongchen patted his shoulder and said with a smile, "Don't worry, we will have plenty of opportunities in the future." Xuan Ziwin nodded slightly. Everyone was even more dissatisfied after hearing this. "What, you still want to occupy the Douluo Continent?" Qian Renxue smiled and said, "Since everyone is here, there is still a quarter of an hour before the tavern closes. Why don't we have a fight first as an opening?" "Okay." Prince Diao said. Jin Hongchen looked at Liu Chang'an and asked, "What do you think, boss?" "Of course. Liu Chang'an said with a smile. Prince Diao and others looked at Zhu Zhuqing with frustration. This bastard is really good at licking. He has to ask the boss for instructions on such things. This energy is really a bit like Shanhai's style before. Shanhai nodded slightly. Zhu Zhuqing has the talent he had in the past. It is suitable to attract him to be his right-hand man. Start drawing lots. Qian Renxue glared at Zhu Zhuqing. He is really getting more and more cunning as he gets older. Of course, there are too many beauties around him, and Liu Chang'an did not notice the changes in Qian Renxue. Qian Renxue and other 4 representatives drew lots. Their fighting method is to fight 2 by 2 first, and then decide the first place. As for the Soul Master duel, considering the style of the Sunday and Moon Empire, it is not 7 to 7, but 1 to 1, and it is not until everyone is defeated that the winner is determined. This kind of competition situation is actually very suitable for Tiando and Xinluo. After all, they are all temporary teams. Tiando vs. Xinluo. Spirit Hall vs. Sun Moon Empire. The result of the draw came out. On the Sun Moon Empire side, Xiao Hongchen and Meng Hongchen both looked at the members of the Spirit Hall team. When Xiao Hongchen saw the charming Lina, his eyes widened. A 14-year-old boy, who used to look down on everyone, was now impressed by Lina's appearance. Hey! Xiao! You are so useless. Meng Hongchen hit Xiao Hongchen's arm and said angrily. Xiao Hongchen came back to his senses, swallowed his saliva, and said seriously, Meng, I met my true love. How ridiculous. How dare you say that you met your true love when you first met? Meng Hongchen was still disdainful, and suddenly glanced at Liu Chang'an behind that counter. Just now, she had her back to Liu Chang'an and didn't see him. Now because she was looking at the people in the Spirit Hall, she caught a glimpse of Liu Chang'an's figure. This glance was like metal meeting a magnet, and the sight was firmly sucked over. Seeing Liu Chang'an's handsome face, which could only be described as beautiful, Meng Hongchen's eyes were also fixed, and she couldn't help but start to imagine the scene of her future husband and children. Hey! Meng! Stop looking! Xiao Hongchen said with a dark face. Meng Hongchen pushed Xiao Hongchen's face away and murmured, I believe you now. There is such a thing as love at first sight in the world. I have also found my true love. No. Xiao Hongchen panicked, his sister's soul was about to be taken away. Xiao Hongchen glared and was about to go to settle accounts with that wild man. As soon as he turned his head was turned back by Zhu Zhuqing. Evil creature. Don't be rude to the boss. ... You used to call me your precious grandson. Xiao Hongchen felt very wronged. On the other side, Zhu Zhuqing, who represented the Xingluo Empire, looked coldly at Xuebinger on the Tiando side. This time, I won't fail again. Zhu Zhuqing said coldly. Then how about the bet? Xuebinger said coldly. What are you betting on? Zhu Zhuqing asked. I'm betting on the position of a tavern maid. I want this identity. Xuebinger said seriously. She has never concealed her feelings for Liu Chang'an. Although she is now employed by the tavern as a performer. But she still thinks that maids are the closest to Liu Chang'an. After all, now everyone knows that women who have relationships with Liu Chang'an seem to be maids. The probability is at least 2/3. You wish. I won't bet with you on this. You can just envy it. Zhu Zhuqing smiled. What if she lost? Anyway, she is a tavern maid. This fact cannot be changed. Xuebinger is so angry. Now each choose a team member and go on stage to compete. Qian Renxue said. The 4 teams quickly selected their own players, all of whom were the worst in the team. This pre-match competition was just to find out each other's ways. The ring suddenly split in the middle, one turned into 2, and became 2 independent rings. The 4 people went on the ring and started to compete. Almost everyone in the tavern looked at the members of the Sunday and Moon Empire. The team member's fighting style was very strange. He actually took out a tube from the storage soul guide, and it changed into a cannon barrel with a click, and fired a powerful cannonball. Boom. Everyone present was shocked. Is this a soul guide? Too domineering, right? Tang San, who had just entered the door, also happened to see this scene. He was stunned and stopped at the door. What was that person using? If that kind of thing always existed, his hidden weapon would probably lose a lot of luster. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novel, as there you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 274. Tang San wants to turn the tables. Tang San's eyes dimmed for a moment. He was going to lose another advantage. This was one of the few things he could show off. Jin Hongchen's voice introducing the soul guide rang in his ears. Tang San glanced at everyone. Almost everyone was listening carefully, but he just felt irritated. He came to the tavern this time just to help Zhu. He rebuilt his body as his new teacher. To be honest, he could now guess that Liu Chang'an could not guide him at all. He was just groping around. If he followed him to learn, he would never achieve much in his life. Become a god. Titled Douluo. I'm afraid it's hard for a soul empire to achieve it. Knowing this, Tang San couldn't help but feel resentful. If Liu Chang'an hadn't intervened, he would definitely become a god in the future with his ability to challenge the worldly wine. Even if he didn't use the tavern, he would have the ability to become a god with the favor of the god of destruction. But because of Liu Chang'an's influence, he fell to his current state. What he couldn't stand the most was the night of blooming. Now he has an anal fistula, just like a bird can't hold shit. You'll teach me to become a god, right? Tang San asked in his heart. Call me teacher, of course. I admire you, kid. Your soul strength is very strong. Follow me to learn. Our continent is the most suitable for you. Now, help me reshape my body. Zhu, he replied lazily. Tang San's eyes were firm. He went straight to find Tang Xiao. Tang Xiao looked at Tang San, who suddenly came over with complicated eyes, smiled bitterly, and said, Xiao San, have you figured it out? Yes, uncle, I have figured it all out. I have met another teacher now, but this teacher wants me to challenge the worldly wine again, and this time, it requires 300,000 gold soul coins, Tang San said embarrassedly. Tang Xiao's face changed, and he smiled bigly. Xiao San, a ocean sect can no longer afford so much money. When it was the first sect, all the money was contributed by the affiliated sects. In recent years, the purchase of materials and the construction of Yuexuan for your aunt, now we can only take out 130,000 gold soul coins at most. It's not like all sects are as rich as the Seven Treasures Glazed Tile sect. A Ocean sect is a group of rough men. No matter how you think about it, they are not good at doing business. After so many years of seclusion, where can they have spare money? Tang San nodded slightly and said, I know. Xiao San, are you willing to stay in a Ocean sect? We're a family. Tang Xiao looked at Tang San expectantly. Tang San shook his head and said, Uncle, I have my own future. I want to venture out. I can't get any training in the sect. But you are my relatives, even though I don't have the clear sky hammer spirit now. Tang Xiao nodded vigorously. Okay, Xiao San, you will always be our clear sky clan's child. With your ability, you'll definitely be able to challenge the mortal wine and take back the clear sky hammer. Tang San glanced at Tang Xiao's eyes and nodded slightly. I will try my best in the future, but not now. It's over. The ice goddess won again. So amazing. She is worthy at being our beautiful and cool ice goddess. Alas. A burst of cheers suddenly broke out in the tavern. Tang San turned his head and saw that the winner was decided on a ring covered with ice. Observing the ice, Tang San's eyes flashed with sadness. If he went on stage, he would probably be frozen by the ice in a few strokes, right? This is not a battle of the same level at all. Tang San sighed and turned to find Xiao. Xiao San, the Ocean sect can keep Liu Chang'an. You don't have to keep him with you all the time. You should also know that he can't give you any guidance on cultivation. Tang Xiao pointed at Liu Chang'an behind Tang San and said. Tang San shook his head. He just wanted to take Liu Chang'an with him. They couldn't leave each other as master and apprentice. In addition to the master-apprentice relationship, there was also an inexplicable self-destructive tendency. It was Liu Chang'an who dragged him to the current situation. Liu Chang'an couldn't run away either, he had to face it with him. Liu Chang'an lay on Tang San's shoulder with his eyes closed, as if he was asleep. In fact, he was afraid of embarrassment. His reputation was completely ruined now. Tang San came to Xiao, his eyes flickered, and asked, Xiao, can you lend me 300,000 gold soul coins? Hey! Your little bastard who poops everywhere dare to come here? Ermin rolled up his sleeves and strode over with a gloomy face. Xiao glared at him. Go back. Ermin stopped unwillingly. Xiao looked at Tang San's face, which had been smoothed, and sighed slightly, shaking her head and said, Brother, Although I stayed in the tavern, it was all thanks to Da Ming and Erming, and they don't have gold soul coins. Also, brother, don't be stubborn, turn around, you're obviously the most talented, what about now? Look at them on the ring. Blessed by the boss and the god of destruction, and the soul guide of the Sunday and Moon Empire, they are already soul kings before they are 15 years old. Take me, for example, because I often drink alcohol, I have reached level 41. Xiao persuaded sincerely. Tang San lowered his head and said nothing. He valued his oath the most. Although he regretted it in his heart, he couldn't break the oath because of the previous oath. At this time, there was another burst of exclamations around the ring. Tang San's sight was attracted to it, and he was fascinated when he saw it. Now the fight is halfway through, and it is getting intense, especially in the ring between the Spirit Hall and the Sun Moon Empire. Yan is fighting against a Soul Emperor, and the Soul Emperor keeps taking out all kinds of strange soul guides. And those soul guides are really powerful, magical and powerful. Tang San thought that if he went up, he would not last more than a minute. Is this the strength that should be in this era? Xiao continued. This is just the beginning. As time goes by, the people who have connections with the tavern will become stronger and stronger, and the distance between you will become greater and greater. And now the Spirit Hall is monitoring evil soul masters more strictly. If I do something stupid, Xiao's eyes were red. She couldn't bear to see Tang San's appearance of being lost in the crowd. Tang San took a deep breath and forced a smile. No, I'm very sensible. Xiao, I'll go find someone to borrow gold soul coins first. Tang San didn't dare to look at the ring. Those were all strong men of the younger generation. Perhaps without experiencing this series of changes, he was confident that he would not be worse than them in the future, but now he really didn't have the courage. Especially now that Yan, Shuobinja, Zhu Zhuqing and Ma Rulan are on the field, they are also outstanding. Tang San, I can support you. Nine Fengzi suddenly waved at Tang San. Tang San's expression moved, and he walked towards him, while asking in his heart, Teacher, can I become stronger? Like those people on the field? Nonsense, what are they? Zhu said impatiently. Tang San showed a soothing smile on his face, he still has a chance to turn the tables. Chapter 275 Results. I can still win it back. What I lost, I can still get. Tang San deliberately didn't think about the blooming of the whole night. After all, that was the shadow of his life, which could never be changed. He came to Nine Fengzi and was about to speak when fierce artillery sounds suddenly broke out on the stage. Like most people in the tavern, Tang San was attracted. The sound of artillery shells came from the arena of the Spirit Hall and the Sun Moon Empire. The Captain Ma Rulan actually suppressed Yan with firepower. The artillery fire was flying, and Yan's powerful Flame Lord spirit was covered by the firepower alive, and was beaten to a mess and defeated. This victory was not based on the soul skills and fighting techniques understood by the soul masters, but a soul guide they had never seen before. This was beyond their expectations. Too outrageous, is this a soul guide? If everyone can activate that soul guide, wouldn't ordinary people be able to be used as soul masters? Yeah. I can't believe it, how could there be such a thing? This is simply breaking the balance of our soul master world. He shouldn't be here. A group of people couldn't accept the power of soul guides. Jin Hongchen said with a smile. This is the development of the times. You only rely on yourself, but how many soul masters are there? Tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands? It can't be more than 500,000, right? And the others will become ordinary people, of little use. But our soul guides are different. In the future, we will let ordinary people use them. Then, everyone will be a soul guide. Jin Hongchen smiled proudly. Everyone present was in low spirits. As Jin Hongchen said, if everyone is a soul master, how strong would the Sun Moon Empire be? Even if there are gods in Douluo Continent, it will be crushed in terms of national strength. Your Excellency may be laughing now, but you may not be the last one laughing. At least for now, your soul guides are still no match for top soul masters. Qian Renxue smiled and shook his head. Jin Hongchen knew that this person was a god from Douluo Continent, so he did not dare to underestimate him. He smiled and said, My Lord God, maybe it's just like you said, but the future belongs to us. And now, soul masters may not be able to win. He was halfway through his words when he suddenly froze. There was no sound on the ring. He looked up and saw Ma Rulan looking at the last person in the Spirit Hall, Ileana. Ileana walked slowly towards Ma Rulan without any counterattack. Jin Hongchen frowned. Spiritual soul skills. They can indeed restrain our soul guides, but why hasn't Marulan, who is at the level of Soul Emperor, come out yet? Yan, who had stepped down from the stage, laughed and said, I can't resist the charm, how can a mere soul guide resist it? Just as Yan said, Ileana walked up to Marulan, who was still standing there stupidly, with the cannon on his shoulder turned off. Give me all your soul guides. Ileana smiled. Marulan obediently handed the cannon to Ileana, and then he took out one soul guide after another. Ileana accepted everything with a smile on her face. Marulan! What are you doing? Jin Hongchen shouted angrily. Marulan seemed to be completely deaf to the outside world and gave all his assets to Ileana. Seeing that there was no more stock, Ileana gently pushed Marulan and he rolled on the ground by himself, rolling down the stage. And the whole audience was silent for a few seconds, and then burst into enthusiastic cheers. Jin Hongchen's eyes twitched, and he looked at Marulan, who fell to the ground with a murderous look. So beautiful, Marulan was still muttering. Pa! Xiao Hongchen went up and slapped him. Marulan woke up as if from a dream, staring at Xiao Hongchen blankly, wondering, why did I fall down? Xiao Hongchen was helpless, rolled his eyes, and said, you should look at me. Xiao Hongchen went up, facing Ileana, and then he was also bewitched, taking out soul guides one by one, and gave them all to Ileana. Seeing this, Marulan immediately turned over his storage soul guide, even gave away the storage soul guide. Marulan showed an unbelievable expression and asked his teammates next to him, was I just like Xiao Hongchen? The teammates nodded repeatedly. They suddenly became sober. Fortunately, they were eliminated first, otherwise it would be even more embarrassing now, and they also lost all the soul guides. The loss is too great. Marulan's face turned black, and the next second, Xiao Hongchen, who had taken out all the soul guides, rolled down from the ring with a silly smile on his face. Bang! He turned his face to the sky, with a silly smile on his face. Marulan's mouth twitched. No wonder Xiao Hongchen slapped him in the face just now. It turned out that he was also in this unpromising look at the time. He couldn't help but slap him now. It's so embarrassing. Pa! Meng Hongchen squatted down and gave Xiao Hongchen a big slap. Xiao Hongchen's eyes regained their spirit, looked at Meng Hongchen, sat up, and his face suddenly became ugly. Meng, did I just? Yes. Meng Hongchen said angrily. Xiao Hongchen's face flushed instantly, and he couldn't stay any longer, so he covered his face and ran upstairs. Meng Hongchen shook his head helplessly, one by one, not letting people rest assured, and quickly went up to the ring. Those things, I will make you return them all. Meng Hongchen said aggressively. A few minutes later, Meng Hongchen also rolled down from the ring, grinning foolishly. So beautiful, Jin Hongchen's face was as black as the bottom of a pot, and he stepped forward to wake up his granddaughter. Meng Hongchen's face flushed. As a girl, she was also bewitched by Ileana. Where can she go to seek justice? She is too weird. Jin Hongchen shook his head. The Sunday and Moon Empire was so glorious when it debuted, but in the end, it didn't even make it through the first round and was eliminated by the Spirit Hall. But this was basically due to only two people. Yan and Ileana. Especially the latter, with a charming aura, even Jin Hongchen was frightened when he saw it. Sun and Moon lost. I wonder if the children's soul guides can be returned. They were all made by the children themselves, and they may be reluctant to give them up. Jin Hongchen clasped his fists to Qian Renxue and asked. Qian Renxue looked at Ileana and smiled. What do you think? Great Priest, this is my trophy. Since I snatched it, it belongs to me. I won't give it to anyone else. Okay. Mr. Jin heard it too. Qian Renxue was blatantly taking sides. Jin Hongchen's mouth twitched and he nodded. I understand. Well, we don't need those soul guides. This exchange has also benefited us a lot. Soul guides are still difficult to replicate in terms of the magic of soul skills. The battle was over, Sunday and Moon were eliminated, and they didn't care who was the first. Even if they lost, they showed the superiority of soul guides. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone, see you in the next video.